Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. He is young Zach Goodman over there in our producer's chair. It's an overcast but nice Saturday here in the Baltimore area. Today's show is brought to you by PressBox Online Offers. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get up to $1,000 in a deposit bonus match plus a $50 free bet. With DraftKings, just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. Zach, good morning. How was graduation last week?
A lot of fun. Always good to see people graduate. But then you have the 2-hour commencement speeches that are always a lot of fun. So we got to see Larry Hogan actually. So that was interesting.
Oh, the Hogs.
Yeah, Larry Hogan.
The
Hogs, as everyone calls them.
Yes, the Hogs. Well, if JLC over at 105.7 The Fan can be the only one to call the mountain El Gigante for some stupid reason.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, he calls him that every time, and it's everybody calls him the mountain except for one person who has a radio show that the people that everybody can hear. So anyway,
well, in that case, more people are going to start calling him that. Then.
No, he's been doing it now for 2 years, and nobody's calling him.
Really?
That. Yes, because his nickname's the Mountain.
It is the Mountain.
It would be like Cal Ripken. Well, no, not like. Let's not go Cal Ripken. But it would be like
That'd be a little extreme.
Adam Dunn's nickname was the Big Donkey, and it would be like if he called him Seabiscuit.
Imagine not calling Grayson Rodriguez the Big Rod.
Yeah, that's his nickname, the Big Rod.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you kind of...
Paul Valley christened it.
I guess he doesn't... G-Rod is his nickname. That's the nickname he prefers. But I called him the Big Rod before we had discovered a nickname, and it has not stuck. I always forget about it till Zach brings it up on the show. It's a fun nickname. I don't care who you are.
You gotta put it in your Twitter description or your bio or whatever they call it, and let everyone know.
Of course, here I am hating on somebody being the only person to call Felix Bautista by the wrong nickname, and I'm calling Grayson Rodriguez the Big Rod.
Well, I think Felix is a more established nickname than Grayson Rodriguez. We don't really know what the established nickname for Grayson is. And also,
it's the Big Rod.
It is the Big Rod now, but before. The Orioles used the Mountain in their, what do you call it, their graphics at Camden Yards anyway.
So what you're saying is that
established.
I have to contact some connections there
in touch with PR.
In Orioles PR. Colleen O'Rourke, I'm talking about you. I'm going to hit her up, and I'm going to say, hey, how do we get a video for Grayson Rodriguez where it says the Big Rod as he's coming into the game, as he's warming up in the first inning?
What music would accompany that?
Stranglehold by Ted Nugent.
No idea, but okay, sure. We'll go with that.
How the hell? How in the blue hell do you know every word to every Bruce Springsteen song in the history of mankind? Come on. But you don't know what Stranglehold by Ted Nugent is.
Break one. We'll listen to it. Break one.
No, we're gonna listen to it right now. The world's
is that legal?
We have 30 seconds.
All right, fair.
We're not. Hang on 1 second. Now I got to find it. The Nuge, as I like to call him.
Oh, another nickname that Paul Valley christened.
The Nuge. No, I think other people call him that too. Okay.
Isn't he the one who had to cancel his concert because he made the racist comment like 2 weeks ago? Or 3 weeks ago or a month ago or something like that? It was Ted Nugent, I'm pretty sure. Anyway. Oh, yeah, I know this song.
Yes,
I just didn't know that's what it was.
This is actually, for my baseball team, this is my walk-up song.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that song. Some songs you just know, but you don't know what they're called or who they're by.
So I figured that you had to know it. You just didn't know it was called Stranglehold and it was by Ted Nugent. But I will tell you, that music is pure sex. That song is pure sex. And what better person to have that be their song as they're warming up than the Big Rod, Grayson Rodriguez. Now, the Big Rod needs to perform like the Big Rod instead of the Little Noodle, and which he's been performing like 2 of his last 3 outings, or you could say 3 of his last 4. Grayson Rodriguez needs to go out and shove tonight.
Yeah, he does.
Because if he doesn't, he's probably going back down to AAA.
Yeah.
I don't think he has another start after this if he goes out and gives up 4 runs in 4 innings.
Well, it's been historically the first inning for him, that he just cannot get through. And I know we talked about this at length, but something's got to change there. And I think it's maybe a confidence thing. He's coming into the game just not confident. And then once he gets through that first, maybe gets a strikeout for the third out, something along those lines, builds that confidence, comes back out in the second, and then shoves from then on.
Well, but
it hasn't always been that.
In his last start on Monday, he got through the first inning.
He did.
And then he still gave up 8 runs.
Which was, I think, the first time. Was it the first inning he hadn't given up a run in?
No.
It wasn't?
No, because he threw 5 shutout innings against Detroit.
Oh, that's right. I don't count that game because it was Detroit, but
I mean, the starting before that against Detroit. Well, he went 5 innings twice against Detroit. He went 5 innings. He gave no runs.
My point is, I'd like to see Grayson Rodriguez if he's going to throw 5 scoreless innings against a better team than Detroit.
Yeah,
because they really have 1 or 2 major league hitters.
Because he got lit up by a good hitting team in the Angels. He got lit up by a bad hitting team in the A's.
Yeah.
He got lit up by who else lit him up? It was
And I think the A's have a bit of a better lineup than the Tigers do, but I could be wrong.
Who did he go 6 innings, a 2-run ball against?
6 innings of 2-run ball.
So it was, I think it may have been his second to last start. He went 6 innings, a 2-run ball, and
I'll find this.
It was during that 7-game stretch where the starter's ERA was like 2.04.
Okay, so he hasn't gone 6 innings yet in the major leagues, but he did throw a 5 2/3 of 2-run ball against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa Bay.
There you go.
That's a good team that he shoved against, right? So, and that was just 2 starts ago. Now that's sandwiched in between 3 1/3 innings of 8-run ball against the Angels, and 3 2/3 innings of 6-run ball against the Royals. He dominated. After the first inning, he dominated Texas.
Yes.
Yep. After the first inning, he dominated the White Sox. He dominated Detroit twice. He dominated the Rays.
Yeah.
He got his bleeps torn off against Oakland, Kansas City, and the Angels.
And most specifically the Angels. 8 earned runs against the Angels.
Yeah. April, my sister's calling me. And she's been my sister.
I thought we were talking about the month.
No, my sister's name is April with a Y. And she's been my sister the entire time I've been doing this show.
First time?
You know, and calling me right at the beginning of my show. It's weird to me when family members call me in the middle of something that I've been doing.
Well, hopefully it's not an emergency or something.
It's not. It's not. We both work in the same industry for our full-time jobs, and so she's probably calling me to talk about something. I know that she was a little stressed out yesterday. It's okay. I will text her here momentarily. Last night, the Orioles, they shoved against the Toronto Blue Jays. Kyle Gibson, look, I'll tell you, man, the way that game started last night, I was like, oh, crap. Kyle Gibson looked like he was destined for about 5 innings of 3 or 4 run ball again. And I'm like, man, what are we going to do about Kyle Gibson? Because if this Orioles team is for real, they're going to need somebody that can consistently go out there and hold the opposition to 2 runs. And what did he do? First couple innings, he looked shaky. He ends up going 7 innings on 95 pitches, 5 hits, 5 Ks, 1 run. He did exactly what the Orioles needed of him last night, which was to go deep into the ballgame because that bullpen has been worked recently.
Right,
They've been absolutely worked recently. Ryan Mountcastle providing the big blow for the offense early on with the 3-run bomb. He owns the Blue Jays. 15 home runs, 36 RBI, and 43 career games versus Toronto. Anthony Santander continues his blistering month of May. He homered and walked twice last night. You know, his own base percentage is like 340 right now. It's 339.
Yeah. It's really rising, and it's something that, again, he hasn't really shown that historically. So let's hope that holds. But I don't know if I trust it to hold because it's Santander.
Last year, he started to walk a little bit more. He was walking more early in the year, and then it kind of tailed off. It's still early in the year, but he's hitting about close to 270. He's got a 339 on base percentage. It seems like he's hitting a home run every other game now.
I think for Santander, though, he is one of those more streaky hitters that it's not only about walks for him to get OBP up. It's also just simply about getting on base without walks, getting hits, whatever.
Yeah, which is what he's doing this month.
Which he has done this month. But you saw April was a very slow start for him, and that's usually what he does. He had a slow start last year, as we've mentioned. So let's hope this actually continues. But if he ends up again at that 315 OBP mark like he did last year, we're going to have some problems. That's not a middle-of-the-order hitter.
Well, right. And actually, I want to ask Stan about that when he comes on the show, because right now, Mountcastle and Santander are producing enough that you feel like, okay, they're middle of the order hitters. You still would like one more bat to slot in between them, I think. But Mountcastle's hitting about 250, but he's got, 10 home runs, 36 runs driven in.
Yeah.
Santander's hitting about 270. He's got 8 or 9 home runs, and he's got about 27 runs driven in. They're producing in the middle of that order right now. And Mountcastle almost walked twice last night. He thought he had ball 4. It was a strike, but it was a borderline pitch that didn't go his way. Yeah. There would have been a second walk. He ended up getting out. But he had a walk. He had a home run last night, a big 3-run homer to give the Orioles a 3-1 lead.
Yep.
Adam Frazier hit a 2-run homer last night. And Adam Frazier is so confounding to me because he has really weak contact.
He does.
His hard hit percentage is 12% below league average.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
His batting average on balls in play is like 230.
Yeah.
I mean,
poor. It's really poor.
I mean, the league average is like 297.
Yeah.
And his batting, and I've posted a lot in the last couple of days about his batting average on balls in play. I feel like I'm saying BABIP like in my sleep at this point, but he makes more contact than anybody on the team.
Yeah.
His whiff rate, he's in like the 97th percentile in whiff rate. He's one of the most elite players when it comes to making contact. But when he makes contact, he rolls over a lot.
Yeah, not a lot of barrels from Adam Frazier.
A lot of pop-outs, a lot of weak fly-outs. But he's got 5 home runs.
Yeah.
And all of the 5 home runs, 4 of them are 2-run shots, and all 5 of his home runs have come with the game when the game was within 3 runs.
Yeah.
Now, 2 of them came in 9-5 losses, weirdly enough, but the other 3 either put the Orioles either further ahead or back within a run or tied the game. To me, I have no idea how I feel about Adam Frazier. I guess, similarly to how I feel about Rougned Odor. The difference is Odor struck out a ton. He struck out a ton, and aside from being a really good double play turner, he didn't catch the ball a lot. Adam Frazier plays good defense. He doesn't strike out, and he has the clutch home runs. So I tolerate him. I don't have the vitriol towards him that I had towards Rougned Odor, but he's a very similar player in terms of production.
Well, I think at the end of the day, Rougned Odor made a negative difference on this team, except for his personality and his locker room presence.
He had 6 walk-off hits.
His WAR was what, though? -1?
Yeah, I think it was
something along those lines.
Or something like that.
To me, he made a negative difference on this team.
Well, yeah,
Adam Frazier, so far, I think has made a positive difference on this team. I think he's done what they brought him here to do, although I don't necessarily think he's quite gotten back to that all-star year he had 2 years ago, and I don't think he'll ever get back to that. That was probably one of those outlier years in his career where you'll look back on and go, how did Adam Frazier do that? But
what he did in 2021 was similar to what he did at the beginning of his career.
I mean, yes, his rookie year was quite good, but only 66 games, and he hit 301 with 356 OVP. But then after that, he was more in like the 270s, and then finally in 2020 got down to 230, and then went back up to 305 in 21. So he's been pretty steady, and this is one of the worst years so far of his career, but I still think this is more of what he is than that 305 year.
Well, and the thing is now, at what point do the Orioles and the rest of Major League Baseball, unless it's like the Oakland Athletics, at what point do people need to start treating him like a utility player instead of an everyday player?
Well, I will say this, too. If you look at 2017, his OPS plus was 97. So that's 3% worse than a Major League hitter, average. In 2019, it was 98. And now it's 96. So he's kind of on par with what he was doing throughout his career. But
what about 2018?
In 2018, he was 118, so I skipped that one.
Yeah,
I cherry-picked.
Yeah.
But
what about 2021?
In 2021, he was 114, so 14% better than the average. But that's not incredibly high. It's not like we're talking 130 here or something incredible. Because he's not, Mike Trout. He's Adam Frazier. But I think what you say about him making contact and him being able to have great at-bats is one of the most important things about him. He's going to stand up there and foul off 7 balls in each at-bat if he wants to. He can do that. He has that ability. He doesn't strike out a ton, and I think that makes a positive difference.
It does, but at some point, he needs to be honest with himself, and his coaches and manager need to be honest with him and say, look, man, you're not an everyday player anymore.
Yeah.
You're a utility infielder. You're a really good utility infielder. You're a guy that I can be, that if somebody gets hurt, yeah, I'm confident putting you into that spot and giving you 3 straight weeks of starts. As a utility infielder, he's one of the best in baseball. As an everyday player, he's not incredibly valuable to your team. Like you said, he's 4% worse than league average as a hitter. His batting average on balls in play is 60 points less than the league average.
And last year he was 20% worse than the average major league hitter, which is quite considerable.
Yeah.
That's starting to get there.
He's a utility infielder. That's what he is. And now you have guys like Jordan Westburg, who's your reigning minor league player of the year, who is absolutely torching everything he sees right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, he leads your entire organization in home runs and RBIs, and he's hitting over 300. And he can play corner outfield, shortstop, third base, and second base. And I'll bet he can play first base if you need him to.
Yeah, I think it's pretty questionable as to why he isn't here yet. And you heard the comments from Mike Elias this week talking about that versatility. Promoting it.
Yeah, I didn't hear the comments because I was at the game.
Okay.
I was at the game that he was on the
He said more or less, we know Jordan Westburg can play basically anything, and he's going to do that for us at the major league level. We don't expect him to play one position. He's going to play everywhere. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's a guy who can add incredible value to your team.
Right.
If you have a guy who can hit like that, and he's not going to hit like that, but he'll hit probably 250-ish.
Okay.
You would hope.
And with considerably more power, considerably more extra base capabilities, and he's good enough of a defender that you're not worried about putting him anywhere. He doesn't walk a ton. If you look at his minor league numbers, the on-base percentage is usually pretty good because the average is usually pretty good. But you'd like to see him walk a little bit more, but he's also, 2.5 years into his pro career.
Yeah.
That's going to get better.
I don't want to get you off topic here, but what are your... Because I'm just surfing through the statistics here of Joey Ortiz. What are your takes so far on Joey Ortiz?
Joey Ortiz doesn't swing and miss a lot.
He doesn't.
He plays really good defense everywhere. And what I noticed about him at third base... and we're going to get into this later. We only have one guest for the show today. It's Stan. And then the entire second hour is Orioles banter. And we're talking about a number of different things, including... all the players on the active roster, because this team is really good. Can they be better? Mm-hmm. Right. So I don't want to steal too much thunder from later in the show, but I think Joey Ortiz is a legitimate player, and if Adam Frazier and I get that Adam Frazier, you signed him for $8 million, and he's a veteran. If you're willing to play him every day, there's no reason you shouldn't be playing Joey Ortiz every day until you bring up Jordan Westburg. And even then, the way Jorge Mateo's bat is playing right now, maybe you have a game where you have a few games where you have Westburg and Ortiz manning the middle of your infield. He's got great bat to ball.
He does
capabilities, and I think that he makes contact. He's got such great swing speed and such good control of the bat that he's not going to swing and miss a ton. He's a rookie. He's a young guy who's still learning to play at the big league level, so he's going to have his struggles. But he hit everything hard yesterday. To me, Joey Ortiz is kind of starting to come out of his shell a little bit at the big league level. Yeah. I would like to see him get more opportunity, especially when one of your infielders in Adam Frazier isn't performing. The 2-run homer be damned last night, and another one is on the IL for what seems like the 8th time in 3 years. So why not give is Ortiz going to be anything worse than what you're getting out of your infield right now? Is the question, because look at what your infield's doing. Let's take the names away for a second. And let's look at what your infield is doing right now. Gunnar Henderson's hitting below 200. Jorge Mateo is hitting like 120 in the month of May. Adam Frazier, we talked about the batting average on balls and play and the fact he's hitting about 230 overall.
Yeah.
Ryan Mountcastle's hitting 249. And then you have Taron Vavra and you have Joey Ortiz, who are coming off your bench for you. Nobody's lighting the world on fire in the Orioles infield. And again, we're going to talk about that later in the show. Maybe it's time to give somebody else an opportunity.
Yeah. I don't want to steal thunder, but I do think you have to consider, and I know he's cooled down considerably since the beginning of the season, but Jorge Mateo has really been good for the Orioles this year. He's been quite good. So I don't think you can discount his performance. I don't think you can really discount what he did just because right now he's not on the hottest streak of his life. But I think that's probably pretty reflective of what Jorge Mateo is. I don't think he is going to be a guy who's going to hit, what he was all season, 280, 290. That's just not what he is.
We're gonna talk about it later.
Okay,
We're gonna talk about it later because I have all this in my notes. I got my notes over. I got my notes over too late. I forgot to send them last night.
You're
before
fine.
I went to sleep.
By the way, Joey Ortiz's slash line is 238, 227, 238, 465 is the OPS. I always love when an OBP dips below the batting average, and I have to figure out how that's possible. But it is possible. I don't
can't
know where
remember how it is.
A discrepancy would lie in there. I just have to find the discrepancy.
It's probably like sack flies or something like that.
It's something like that.
Because I know he did have a sack fly in his first game.
It is a sack fly. That's the discrepancy.
Yeah. But the Orioles overall, look, they entered the gauntlet after the first 3 games of the month of May against Kansas City. Braves, Rays, Pirates, Angels, Yankees, Blue Jays, and then who do they end the gauntlet with? Texas.
Yeah.
And then they have Cleveland, they have Milwaukee, they have San Francisco. These teams aren't pushovers.
No.
14 games into the gauntlet, 8-6. They've got 2 games left with Toronto, 3 at the Yankees, 3 at home versus Texas. Are we happy with 8-6? I don't know how you can't be.
Oh, yeah, extremely. I think especially given their performance against Toronto last night, and then they, in many ways, held their own against Tampa Bay. That's the series I think most people looked at and said, okay, if the Orioles are going to be exposed, they're going to be exposed versus Tampa Bay, and I don't think they were by any means.
No, they were neck and neck.
Every game is close, for the most part.
It's easy to discount the Orioles because they're the Orioles.
Yeah.
And they went from a 110-loss team in 2021 to an 83-win team in 2022, and now they're on pace for 95-plus wins in 2023. So it's easy to discount this team. And then you look at the rotation that's gotten a lot better over the last 2 weeks, but they don't have anybody that screams, this guy's who I'm sending out there to beat somebody in a one-game playoff, in a playoff game, right?
I think the rotation is still, and we're going to, again, get to it later, but that's, you see what the Orioles have done over these past few games, and they've given up, a decent amount of runs, 6 to the Angels, 9 to the Angels the other day. There's some concern there. Yeah. And the bullpen's overworked right now.
Yeah, the bullpen is certainly overworked, and that's also something we're going to talk a little bit about later, because Orioles banter is a 2-parter today with a break in between. Now, we wanted the Orioles to be 19-9 at their best after the first month. That's what they did. They were 19-9 after the first month of the season. And then for me, it was play 500 baseball in May. Have a pretty good record in June, play 500 baseball in July and August, and then use a pretty soft schedule at the end of the season in September to really make that playoff push.
Yeah.
So my expectations were just tread water, play 500 ball in May. They're 8-6.
Yeah.
The expectation versus reality, this is better than what I was hoping for.
No doubt.
This stretch.
And by the way, so you talked about a starter really needing to step up and make that difference, because you can do all of this you want, and then when it comes playoff time, you're going to have a guy who's going to go out there and shove. To Kyle Gibson's credit, and I don't want to say he's an ace. I don't think he's anywhere close to that. He's like a 4 or 5, in my opinion. That's what he is. But he's averaging basically 6 innings to start this year.
Yeah.
That's really impressive for a guy like Kyle Gibson.
He also has 2 starts of 6 innings or more where he gave up
a lot of runs,
4 to 6 runs.
Yeah, yes, and that's why he's not an ace.
Right.
That's simply most aces can go out every time and give you 6 or 7 innings.
Yeah.
Most aces.
And then you look at the numbers that Tyler Wells is. We're going to talk about later.
Okay.
Let's
do it. We got to get Stan on the line anyway. If
I do want to, before we do, we got a minute.
Okay.
Orioles are 29-16 overall, second best record in baseball. Of course, the best record lies in their division with the Tampa Bay Rays. The Orioles are still 3.5 games behind them. The Orioles are pretty evenly split, 15-8 at home, 14-8 on the road. They're 14-12 versus teams above at or above 500. So do we consider them legitimate World Series contenders? Can you consider the team with the second best record in baseball that's holding their own against the other best teams in baseball to be legitimate World Series contenders? And if so, does the front office go for it at the deadline?
Well, I was going to say, I think this really is going to be decided at the deadline more than it is now, because I think if the Orioles do go out and get that number one starter, a guy who can actually, where game one of any playoff series, you can throw this guy, or not even game one, wherever you really need him, you can throw this guy. If you have a Corbin Burns, if you have a Max Scherzer, someone like that who can really go out there and you can count on them, then yes, they are. Right now, they're not. I don't think they are without a guy that you can really count on as a number one ace. That's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, but if their record dictates that they are, that's the point. If their record dictates that they are when they get close to that trade deadline, if they've somehow tied or overtaken the Rays, or if they're still only a handful of games or less back of the Rays, and they're sitting there on pace to win 97 games this year, you have to look at this team and say, I have to do what I can. Michael has to say, I have to do whatever I can to get within reason.
Right. I mean,
within reason, because there are people out there, and I actually do want to, I didn't put this in my notes because I forgot about it, but I do want to ask you about it later regarding Corbin Burns. I got to make a note for myself. Okay. But you have to go out there and you have to get that starting pitcher. You have to get that bat to add to the middle of your order to make your lineup that much more dangerous.
Yeah.
I think. Now, there's going to be 20 other teams that are also trying to do the exact same thing.
Right.
So that's a point of contention, and that's a point of contention, right?
I mean,
it's a point of contention, and it's a point of contention.
At the end of the day, you're right, and I agree.
Oh, thank you. Tell my wife. Please tell my wife.
It's fair to say that, we can base this off the record, and based on the record right now, they're legitimate World Series contenders. But if you dig a little deeper, you're again looking at that rotation. And you're saying, I just have some questions. And if you're higher on Tyler Wells or whoever it is, and maybe Grayson Rodriguez becomes the ace that we think he is by the end of the year, then that may change things drastically. But right now, if the Orioles went into the playoffs right now, I'm not sure I would have that much confidence in them being a World Series contender. I think they could go far, but not World Series.
Yeah, right now, and that's why. That's the point of contention.
Well, 100%, yeah.
We got to get Stan on the line. While Zach does that, I want to remind you, press blocks it. Oh, my dear Lord. Take 3. Pressbox's Glenn Clark Radio is a definitive place to find the best daily discussion of Baltimore sports. Watch the show every weekday from 10 to noon at youtube.com/pressboxonline or facebook.com/pressboxsports. Or listen at pressboxonline.com/radio with podcasts available on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. You never know who might pop up on GCR. This week, the guys caught up with top Orioles prospect Colton Cowser, Baltimore Police Commissioner Michael Harrison, Johns Hopkins lacrosse coach Peter Milliman, and former Ravens offensive coordinator Marty Mornhinweg. You can find those interviews and more right now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at pressboxonline.com. Joining us now on the program, back for his weekly segment, he is Stan the Fan. Charles. Stan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning, Paul. How you doing?
We're doing well, and how could we not be doing well with the Orioles sitting with the second best record in baseball after last night's 6-2 win over the Blue Jays? Stan, Kyle Gibson last night, it seemed the way that he started like it might be a difficult outing for him. He ends up going 7 innings on 95 pitches, allows just 1 earned run. How badly did this team need that kind of length from Kyle Gibson last night?
Well, they needed consistently from more starters than just last night, and the signs are indicating, with the possible exception of Rodriguez, that the rotation is sort of rounding into form, or 4/5 of a rotation is rounding into form right now. But they definitely needed it. In fact, I'll go so far as to say that he seemed so in command in that game last night. And I know managers are reluctant to have people go into an 8th inning. I don't know what happened to those old days, but I would have probably left him in for the 8th inning last night.
Yeah, I was actually talking with some people last night about it. Do you send him back out? On the one hand, he's dominating. On the other hand, he's thrown 95 pitches. And I go back to that start against Detroit, Stan, where he and Zach Greinke were going pitch for pitch for a while there. And he was at like 63 pitches in the 7th inning, and then all of a sudden
you said Detroit. You mean
Kansas City? Yes, I'm sorry, Kansas City.
Okay. Just threw me off when you mentioned Zach Greinke.
Yeah, my mistake. So he and Zach Greinke were really, really pitch efficient in that game, and you get into the 7th inning, and he's standing around 60, 63 pitches, and then he just starts getting hit and ends up giving up 6 runs for the game. And and you got to figure that's probably in the back of Brandon Hyde's mind when you're thinking he's got me 7, he's at 95 pitches, but at the same time, he's dominating right now. Would you have you would have thrown that to the side and been like, let's at least see if he can get an out?
I would have probably had him come out for the 8th inning. We were kind of talking about it at my house, you know.
Yeah.
And, I probably would have had him come out for the 8th inning.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem to be in the cards that managers do that much anymore.
Well,
they're thrilled to get 7 innings.
Absolutely. I think that's that's the best they're hoping for most of the time. Now, we saw last year where Brendan Hyde would trust Jordan Lyles in a similar situation to go back out for the 8th inning. And maybe if you see, and with Kyle Gibson, it's kind of been 1 start good, 1 start bad, back and forth this year. Maybe with a little bit more consistency from Gibson, Hyde can start to kind of trust him maybe at 95 pitches to go back out there for the 8th inning somewhere down the line. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about Grayson Rodriguez, Stan, because you mentioned 4/5 of this rotation seems to be rounding into form, and then you have Grayson Rodriguez. You know, he had a really nice 5 2/3 inning start against Tampa Bay with 2 earned runs allowed, sandwiched in between 2 just awful starts against Kansas City and the Angels. If he struggles today, Stan, I can't imagine that he's sticking around. I would imagine he's going back to AAA, and Cole Irvin would be taking his spot. Do you have the same feeling?
That's kind of the way I see it right now. He's been, he's a young pitching prospect, and they always don't develop on your schedule that you're expecting them to. But clearly, he needs to sharpen up his game to remain in the major league. No question about it.
Well, there was a time where
and sending a guy like that down should be perceived as some kind of defeat or negative. It's part of the learning process, you know.
Absolutely. You look at there was a time where Roy Halladay had an ERA above 10 and got sent back down to the minors, and we saw what his career turned into. Now that's an outlier, generally speaking, but it's not like they're telling Grayson Rodriguez, we don't think you can hack it. If they send him down, it's go get some more confidence because you're going to help us down the stretch here.
Right.
You know, and now we're talking about a little bit about how the starting rotation needs to get deeper. You got this bullpen has been overworked. Stan, why is Felix Bautista throwing 25 pitches in a non-save situation last night?
Because once he's up, when the game is in a safe situation, once he's up, you've sort of burned him anyway for the night. So, I don't have a major problem with that.
See, I
mean, who are you gonna go to there? You're gonna leave Cano in for 2 innings?
No.
Or then go to somebody like Baker, who is less predictably strong. Then you really. Once he makes the move to take Gibson out of the game, it's almost, unless the Orioles had scored 4 or 5 runs in the 9th inning, he was going to come out and pitch the 9th inning.
Sure, and I
don't have a problem with that.
See, for my thinking is I would probably have used Perez in that situation. You got a couple of lefties coming up in that inning. He's been pitching a little bit better recently, but if he struggles, then you got to use Bautista anyway, and now you've used 2 arms instead of 1. So I get that too. For how much they've been pitching, the bullpen has been working, I would have rather seen him sit down and somebody else come in the situation. Plus, Michael Givens is about to come back. Dylan Tate had a really nice outing last night. You have other options that could be available to you if you use Perez and he still struggles. To me, I just don't like seeing your closer, who's pitched a lot already, throw 25 pitches in a non-safe situation.
Again, if I'm gonna if the score is gonna be in that ballpark, and what was the final? It was
6-2.
What was the final?
6-2. Yeah.
If that whole sequence begins when you take Gibson out of the game in the 8th, you're committed then to pitching Bautista in the 9th. in my opinion.
I get it. And if Frazier doesn't hit that 2-run homer, we're not talking about this. So I totally understand. Zach, you have a point to make?
Yeah, Stan, just in relation to Michael Givens and his, I guess, imminent return at this point, and Dylan Tate as well, where do you see these guys fitting into a bullpen that has, guys like Cano, guys like Bautista, Brian Baker, all of these guys have established themselves as basically the 3 late-inning relievers. Michael Givens was most likely signed to be a late-inning reliever, so how does he fit into that mix?
Again, first he comes in. I don't think he'll be in leverage situations the first 2 or 3 times. I think the first 2 or 3 times he's used, it will most likely be in less heavy, intense, leverage situations until he gets his feet under him back in the major leagues. So but once he is, I still think I talk to Luke a lot. I talk about this a lot, and he points out how much better Baker is when he's not on, pitching back-to-back days. His velocity just plays a lot better. So I think he sits in, if he's pitching well, he sits in slightly below Cano, but above Baker, in more important situations, unless Baker's had two or more days rest.
Honestly, Stan, I think that you can use Givens and Baker very similarly. I think that you can pitch them in any situation, and having 2 guys like that is really more of a coup for your team than anything else. And that means that you, like you were saying, you don't necessarily need, if Baker gives you 18 pitches on Thursday, then you can use Michael Givens in that role on Friday. I think that they can be interchangeable, and if your starter goes short, now you have that extra elite arm in the bullpen that can really get you through maybe a 5th inning if they need to, or a 6th inning. I think that it just provides more versatility to the bullpen, and it can only be a good thing moving forward.
Yep, I agree.
Now, Stan, I have no idea what to do with Adam Frazier. Because on the one hand, he has some of the softest contact in all of baseball. If you look at his Baseball Savant page, his whiff rate is elite. He's in the 97th percentile in whiff rate. His batting average on balls in play is about 230. His batting average is about 230. He's playing good defense, so he had a couple of gaffes that didn't hurt the team last night. And yet he's got 5 home runs, 4 of which are 2-run homers, and all of which have come when the game was within 3 runs or less. I feel like there's other guys that are knocking on the door at the minor league level that could come in and be a better player than him at this point in his career. But at the same time, he's proven valuable in key situations. How are we feeling about Adam Frazier as we stand today?
I think he's been, for the most part, a solid pickup. He gives, to me, the numbers aren't great. Yet the 5 home runs, 18 RBIs, you'll take any time. At this point in the season, the only negative is the batting average is 229, and that probably has a bit to do with Urias being hurt now. That maybe he's batting against some pitches he shouldn't. I'd go so far as to say, when I look at the Oriole lineup, I would like them to be more. I think I'm ready to be more creative with Cedric Mullins' position in the lineup. It's not to say that he's not doing a terrific job with a 351 on base percentage as your leadoff hitter, but I might consider, because I'm telling you, in spite of the home run last night, my cleanup hitter to me can't have a 276 on base percentage.
I get that.
And strike out 44 to 8. He's got to drop to 6 or 7 to me. And I know how much they like him, but I just see that as a liability in the batting order. There's just too many men left on base by Ryan Mountcastle for me. And yet his numbers, 10 homers, 11 doubles, 34 RBI, people might say, what the hell are you talking about? But I see that on base percentage, and it's not satisfactory to me from a cleanup hitter.
Stan, I like where your head's at, because I've been saying that for a while, and that's why I wanted the Orioles to get a legitimate guy for the middle of their order in the offseason. Anthony Santander is having a really nice May. It's gotten his batting average up to about 267 now. He's got himself 8 home runs, close to 30 RBIs, and his on base percentage
he's got a 340 on base, 339.
Yeah, his on base.
That's totally acceptable there.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And he struck out a lot. He struck out 46 times when he's walked double the amount of times, and that's why his on base percentage, and also why his OPS are in the 800s, where Mountcastle's at 757.
Yeah.
It's to me, I think the Orioles are a very dangerous team that can really go far this year, and that to me the biggest liability I still have with their lineup is Ryan Mountcastle, and that says a lot if that's your biggest liability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if he were a 6 or 7 hitter, or if you want to do something spectacularly different, bat him second or first. You know, it's just not, to me, it doesn't benefit the lineup to have that on-base percentage in that position. I think we're not even talking about him if he's your number 6 hitter. You know.
Yeah, Stan, I agree with you, and like you said, you think that this is a team that can go far. So for me, Stan, if you have Santander batting 3rd, and even Ryan Mountcastle batting 5th, and you have somebody in the middle there to kind of to protect. And I was on Ravens Film Study doing a crossover show with Ken McCusick yesterday. That's probably going to come out next week, and he had the idea of batting Gunnar Henderson cleanup because Henderson knows how to work in at bat, and he'll probably get more pitches to hit if he's hitting between Santander and Mountcastle. I didn't hate the idea, but he has to prove to me that he can hit a fastball more than he has this year. But I think it needs to be. I wouldn't hate seeing Cedric Mullins bat cleanup, and not because I think he's a typical cleanup hitter, but because he's getting on base. His contact to damage ratio has got to be through the roof. He's having a great year. Bat him in the middle of the order, you know. But I do think. Go ahead.
I see Mullins as a guy I'd bat in front of Santander, or I might bat Mullins second, and Mullins second and Rutschman 3rd and Santander 4th.
Do you guys potentially?
I just think there are ways to make this lineup a little more dangerous, and it all starts with the fact that Mullins is having a terrific year, and you might say, well, why the hell are you going to mess with that? And I wouldn't mess with it long. I mean, you know, it's not like I'd go with let's do a 3-week experiment. I'd try it and see how it works out, especially against right-handed starters. You know, where you have Frazier leading off. Rutschman second, Mullins 3rd, Santander. That's a tough gauntlet for a right-handed pitcher to get through. You know.
Yeah. Just to add though, you've got
the versatility with the 2 switch hitters in there. If it's a left-handed starter, you know, maybe it's an Urias when he comes back leading off. I don't know, but there needs to be. It's just too big a hole in that lineup. I think it's deflating the whole potential for this offense.
Yeah, just to add to it, though, if you look at the 29 wins and the second best record in baseball, do you really want to mess with something that's working? That would be my question for that.
Is it working, though? Because
I think
they're averaging like 3.5 runs their last 12 games.
That's fair. I agree on the Cedric Mullins comment, especially that you could move him around a little bit. Jorge Mateo, maybe you put in the leadoff spot. Maybe he strikes out a little bit too much for it, though. I think one way or the other, they need at the deadline a bat in the middle of the order, and then you can kind of start to play around with where some of these guys fall, because I just don't necessarily know.
That bat is probably in the system. You know,
that's what people are saying.
That's
Hauser or Westberg.
Could be cursed at too.
Yeah, and here's the other thing, and this is something I was saying last year, and to me it makes a lot of sense. But they love what he's doing in the 2-hole. Why not bat Rutschman cleanup? With the at-bats that he's going to take, the power, the contact that he makes, to me, he would be the perfect 4-hitter for this team. Why not bat Mullins leadoff, Austin Hayes second, Santander 3rd, Rutschman 4th, Mountcastle 5th, and then take your chances there, or maybe Henderson 5th.
For me, Hayes has too much of the same issues, although he's got a 346 on base percentage right now.
Yeah, and
I don't like Rutschman cleanup. I want him up in the first inning. I want him up every game in the first inning.
You know what? That is a fair point. That is an absolutely fair point.
For whatever reason, Rutschman too. Sorry, Stan, go ahead.
No, it's just he's such a valuable at bat. To have him miss the first inning when it's retired 1-2-3. I mean, he's not always going to get the hits in the first inning, but I like him in the first inning.
Yeah, I get that, and maybe that's the case until Cowser comes up, and then you can look at Cowser in the same vein and now if Cowser gets on base, now Rutschman is batting in the first inning.
Right.
You can look at it in the same vein. Now, let's talk. I'm sorry, Zach, before I move on to something.
No, I was just going to mention the fact that a lot of times when the bottom of the lineup is pretty successful and it rolls over to the top, Rutschman is the guy driving those guys in as well.
Yeah.
And if you throw an Austin Hayes in there, he's having a successful season. He's batting, 310, 316, something along those lines.
Yeah, he's 303 right now.
He was at 312 going into last night.
But regardless, in the 2-hole, I feel like a guy should make a lot more contact than Austin Hayes does.
So maybe put Hayes cleanup.
You could bat that would actually be a pretty good solution.
Bat Hayes cleanup every game and split up Santander and Mountcastle. And I know that the 346 on base percentage, the contact to damage ratio, the fact that he's hitting like 326 with nobody on, 288 with guys on base, and I think he's like 329 with runners in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
Austin Hayes is having a really nice season. Reward him by putting.
What's his righty lefty split?
I think that he's.
I'll find it.
I feel like I remember seeing that he is pretty even there. Let me.
Generally, I thought so in the beginning of his career, I believe he was better against lefties, and then it came in these past few years to be that he's better against righties. But I'm going to check out the splits here.
Let's see. He's got
this season, not
323 versus right-handed pitching, 265 versus left-handed pitching. So he's better than.
He'd certainly be in my choice ahead of Mountcastle, right? The way he's playing now, yeah. But my idea would be against right-handed pitching would probably be Frazier, Rutschman, Mullins, Santander, Hayes, Mountcastle. That's probably what I would do against right-handed pitching, or even Henderson sixth, and Henderson after Hayes, and then Mountcastle to break those guys up.
It's funny in 16 games for Austin Hayes in 2019, he had 48 plate appearances against righties and 27 plate appearances against lefties. He hit 419 against righties and 120 against lefties. So it seems like that's kind of been the historical split for him then.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Stan, let me ask you about this, because it doesn't seem like there's going to be... Look, you're going to have like 20 teams in contention at the deadline who are going to be looking to make similar moves that the Orioles are making. They want to get that bat that's a difference maker. They want to get that ace for the top of the rotation that can pitch game one of a playoff series. The Orioles are going to have to do something at the deadline if they want to make a run in the postseason. And there's a guy that I'm looking at who has a 305 lifetime batting average against left-handed pitching. He's hitting 273 against righties, 270 against lefties this year, but with a 391 on base percentage against left-handed hitters. And that's Charlie Blackmon for the Colorado Rockies. I look at Charlie Blackmon, and I know he's a lefty, and we want a righty, but he's got really good reverse splits. He's a pretty even hitter against both sides, and he's in the final year of a contract. So it's not. I don't think it's going to cost you too much, and maybe you get that little bit of extra juice by adding him to a pennant race towards the end of the season. What are your thoughts on a guy like Charlie Blackmon coming to the Orioles at the deadline and helping them make that playoff push?
And where would he play? Be the DH/outfielder?
Gives you a ton of versatility. DH, right field, left field. He can play all three positions out there, I think.
Look, that might be something that they'll look into, but I think they're going to feel the offensive fortification is going to come in season from somebody in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
Before they explore a trade. I don't see them giving up the assets that they have to acquire a one-time, guy that's at the end of his contract. I just don't see it. I see them using that ammunition to get a pitcher.
Yeah, I think that's probably where they're going to end up going also. I just think that being his age and the end of his contract, and it kind of gives the Rockies a little bit of relief for the last couple of months, maybe they don't ask for too much. And you can send him a middling prospect, but that's 2 months from now. So there's a lot that can happen between now and then. It was just an idea that I had yesterday.
He would definitely be a solid addition to the team. I just don't know that they're in the mode of doing that. But it's funny. I'm looking at the right pitcher, and the cost of the pitcher comes into question, and Eduardo Rodriguez. First of all, the Tigers are liable to be in contention in that division before all is said and done. How poorly the Indians and the White Sox are playing, so they might not be willing to give him up. But he would be the perfect guy to me, except for the fact he's got the opt-out after this year. So you can't give up 2 prospects for him, 2 real pieces for a guy that you only get for 2 months or something like that. So I was looking at it. I love this guy, Mitch Keller, but I'm told that the Pirates are looking at signing him. I almost love Alex Cobb, despite how horrific his 3-year run was here in Baltimore. He's pitching great baseball for the Giants, and he's affordable, and they might bite on trading him. But an interesting guy that's right around the corner is Patrick Corbin, and that would be 2 big ifs. Would be if the Nationals, how much they'd eat of his contract he has this year and next year, and he's got about, I think, like 20 million left on this year right now, and I think 35 next year. So it would be the type of deal where the Nationals would eat more of that contract to get a second prospect for him. He'd be somewhat interesting to me.
I just haven't seen enough from him in the last few years to think that he would be a difference maker.
If you look at his numbers this year, they're not. And I don't want to be the standard bearer. Is that it's not horrible, but it's substantially better than it's been.
That's a fair argument.
Take a peek at him. First of all, it would also entail would the Nationals, and I think that Mike Rizzo wouldn't have this deep-seated hatred for the Orioles because of the Masson dispute, and I think the learners, if it was explained to them, like, hey, this is going to make us better, quicker to do this deal, and not a lot of teams are going to be in the position to pick up anything on Patrick Corbin, and the Orioles have the new left field wall that they didn't have, 5 years ago. They've got it now. He'd be an interesting fit. He's pitching tonight for the Nationals, by the way, so give a look out for him. He's pitching against the Tigers today.
Stan, what about Anthony DeSclafani? He's got a 309.
I like DeSclafani.
He wouldn't be a rental because he's under contract through 2024. He's making $12 million a year on that contract. So when Gibson is inevitably gone next year,
I like him. I like DeSclafani. He's an interesting name I hadn't thought of.
Yeah, he's having a nice season. He's been a solid pitcher throughout his career. I think that's a guy the Orioles could potentially target that would be a difference maker for this rotation, and you'd have him for next year also. So that's somebody who I'm keeping an eye on as well right now.
All right.
Stan, what do you got coming up this week?
We've got a guy I've been trying to – he's a good friend of mine, Andy Dolich, who is a sports business his career as a sports business executive in all major league sports. He's one of the rare people that has worked for all 4 major league sports franchises, meaning baseball. He did work for the Oakland A's for a long time. He worked for the Memphis Grizzlies. He worked for the worked for the Washington Capitals and the San Francisco 49ers. He's now more a consultant teacher. He and I forget the other gentleman's name. They've written a book called Goodbye Oakland, and with all that's going on right now, and he might be an interesting guest for you guys to get on one time for a segment. He's trying to hawk the book, and it's an interesting situation out there right now. No question about it.
Okay.
Looks like a foregone conclusion that it is Goodbye Oakland, but now all of a sudden the Vegas people are talking tough that they're not going to put $400 million into the stadium. they'd be willing to do something like 150 to 190. And Andy also has some interesting insights on the owner there. That where's the other $1 billion going to come from?
Right.
Because he's not going to pay for it. So it'll be an interesting discsion.
Yeah, it seems like it's never ending out there for them. It just seems like it's been a nightmare.
Thursday we've got the new sportscaster in town, Fox 45's Rocco DeSangro will join us.
All right.
I hope I pronounced his name correctly.
Excellent. We'll look forward to that, Stan. We will talk to you next week. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Great talking to you.
You
Bye-bye.
too. See you. That was Stan the Fan Charles, who has changed up the format for his weekly shows. Now, every Monday at 6 p.m., Stan will be joined by former Orioles pitcher Ross Grimsley and Pressbox's managing editor Luke Jackson to break down the latest with the Birds. Every Thursday night, Stan and Gary Stein will chat with a different newsmaker from the world of sports. This week, Stan and Gary caught up with Maryland Lottery Executive Director John Martin. You can watch the shows live at facebook.com/pressbox or find them the next day at pressboxonline.com/video and youtube.com/pressboxonline. So join Stan, Ross, and Luke Jackson this Monday and every Monday night at 6 p.m. We're going to take a break. When we come back in, Zach is going to sound off, and then we'll get into Orioles banter. We'll get into the payoff pitch around the league. All that next on the Bat Around.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holiday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more, we do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge, 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
Welcome back to the Bat Around. First hour of today's show was brought to you by PressBoxOnline.com/offers. Baseball season is here, and for the first time in history, you can bet from your phone in Maryland. Go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers for the best sportsbook offers and incentives so you can start winning today. Get 5-second chance bets at PointsBet when you deposit and bet your first $50. Just go to PressBoxOnline.com/offers to claim your incentive. All right. It is time for... Right? Good? No? Anyway, I don't know what that was. It's time for sounding off with Zach Goodman, the Big Rod.
I'm still in shock a little bit over what you just did.
I don't know. I thought I could do a trumpet. I couldn't. I just sounded like, I don't know, a goat screaming.
Well, now that you've done that, I think you have to do it every time we do sounding off. So I'm going to be expecting it. You better do it.
I'm gonna practice at home then and get better at it. So it sounds like a trumpet.
All right. You do that.
Go for it.
So the writer for CBS Sports, his name is Dayn. I believe he says it Dan. I'm just going to go with Dan. Dan Perry from CBS Sports gave out
Dan Gleasack?
First, not Dan, not that one. First quarter grades to every single Major League Baseball team. And I thought it'd be a fun exercise for Paul and I to go over what he said for each MLB team and then give our own personal grades for each AL East franchise. So, Paul, I guess we got to start off at the top here with Tampa Bay. Dan here gave Tampa Bay an A+, and I don't know, if really there's much to be said about them, but he said, while rotation waylaid by injuries raises concerns moving forward, the present reality is that the Rays are on pace for 120 wins this season, and Wander Franco looks like he's ready to take the next step forward towards superstardom. That's what Dan said.
Yeah.
Where are you on that?
How can you not give them an A+? Their pitching staff has been balls.
Yeah.
In a good way. The offense has just been torching everybody, except for the Orioles. They scored 6 runs in 3 days against the Orioles. They're 20-3 at home. I mean, you want to hold serve. That's aces on every serve. They are, and you're a tennis guy.
Oh, huge tennis guy. Oh, yeah.
It's hard not to give them an A+. I still think, look, they're 4-6 in their last 10. They lost 2 or 3 to the Orioles. They've got 3 at home against Milwaukee. Well, now it's actually 4 at home against Milwaukee, who is a first place team. They beat Milwaukee last night 1-0. Look, Milwaukee's got a good pitching staff. The Rays are 20-3 at home. That's going to even out a little bit. I don't expect this team to go, 78 or to go like 72-9 at home this year.
No.
You know what I mean?
they will not do that. Yeah.
So they're an A+, and I think that they have to be until somebody overtakes them.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. They've got to be an A+. I mean, if you look at the pitching rotation's been fantastic. There's guys overperforming in the lineup, and I think that happens for the Tampa Bay Rays every year. I mean, you look at Yandy Diaz. He's batting .321. He's on base at a .429 clip. He's already hit 10 home runs. This is not a power hitter. He's already at 10 home runs after the first quarter of the season. That's really impressive for Yandy Diaz. I mean, his OPS plus is 187. He's 87% better than the average Major League hitter. Mm-hmm. This guy has overperformed wildly and has really held down first base for them. But then even some of their better players who aren't performing, like Brandon Lowe, or am I saying it right, Lowe or Lau?
He's Brandon Lau.
He's Lau. Okay, gotcha. And then Josh Lowe, who's performing exceptionally well, 305, 364.
He's Lowe.
625. You look at Wander Franco has been exceptional, but Josh Lowe and Yandy Diaz have really carried this offense on their backs. And then again, the pitching rotation's been fantastic. With Clanahan 7-0 with a 2.05 ERA.
He's so nasty.
Right, like
he's stupid good.
Zach Eflin has had a resurgence in his career. He's been excellent. Taj Bradley's been excellent. Drew Rasmussen, he's on the 60-day injured list now. He's out for the year. I think he's going to be out for the year is what they think. But he was excellent up until then. And Jeffrey Springs. He's on the
60-day DL.
Yeah, but I think they said there's a good chance he can miss the whole year.
Okay.
That's what I heard. And then Jeffrey Springs, before he was put on the 60-day injured list, was excellent as well. And now they've got the bullpen going well. Colin Poche is a 1.7 ERA. Jason Adams is a 2.84 ERA. These guys are good. These guys are really good.
Yeah.
Maybe some overperformers, but they're really good. A+.
They are. I can't disagree with you. They're an A+. Next.
So moving on to the second place Baltimore Orioles, he gave them Dan. I'm so sorry that I'm mispronouncing his name. Gave them an A. No thanks to the front office and ownership, I should say, who effectively sat out the offseason. The Orioles are off to a strong start in 2023. They're solidly in second place in the brutal AL East and on pace for the first 100-win season since 1980. Adley Rutschman has a case for being the AL's top catcher. That was his analysis of it. I have to disagree with him a little bit here. You can't really say no thanks to the front office, considering they've built 95% of this roster from the pipeline, but I understand what he's saying, that they, in a way, punted the offseason, didn't really add that impact bat the Orioles probably needed.
Yeah, it's hard not to give them an A+, because of the fact that, look, they're 2 years removed from a 110-loss season. Last year could have been smoke and mirrors at 83 with an 83-win season out of nowhere, but then this year they got off to a hot start. They've stayed hot. They've had the second best record in baseball for a month now. It's hard to say that it's not real. Right. And then you look at the fact that the team hasn't really clicked on all cylinders yet. And the starting rotation is starting to round into form. Grayson Rodriguez is going to have a lot to say about that, and we're going to see whether he's here after tonight. The offense, I think they're still a bat away. I think that they're still a bat away. But it's hard not to give them an A+ because we're talking about maybe they get to 85 to 88 wins this year. And now they're on pace for 95+. Right now, if you were to look at it, they're on pace really for about a 103-win season. But they're looking like a 95+ win team this year. It's hard not to give a team like that an A+. They're going up against baseball's best now.
Right.
And they're still winning games. They're still winning more than they're losing.
So CBS projected the Orioles at 78 wins prior to the season. That was by Matt Snyder from CBS. And that's probably, it wasn't too far off of mine. I think I had them at 81. And we're both going to come up probably pretty short of what's going to be probably a 90+ win season for the Orioles.
I had the Orioles at 88 wins.
So, yeah.
I looked at their schedule. I dissected. I looked at them at 88 wins.
So, look, can you really not give, if you're someone working for CBS and they project the Orioles at 78, they are outperforming that by over 20 games right now.
Literally, in their own article, they said they're projected for 100+ wins.
Right, no, I see that. I'm just saying that.
No. I'm saying for them, they're saying it's 100+. They're on pace for 100+ win season, which they are. They're not lying. Yeah. But when you had them projected at 78 wins, look, we're splitting hairs here.
We are.
They gave them an A.
They gave them an A, but it should be by all means an A+.
You gave them a 95. It should have been a 97. An A's an A. A's an A.
All right, fair enough.
I'm not going to get too mad at them.
Okay,
but
that's fair.
But I give them an A+, but I also, I have a little bit of blinders on. So
let's move on to the New York Yankees, who have significantly underperformed expectations so far. I would say they've gotten off to a better past couple weeks than they started off. They're now 27-16, I believe. 27-20, sorry. And they received a C+ from Dane. The Yankees are solidly above 500, but they're in fourth place and quite a bit behind the pace-setting Rays. Health concerns in the rotation have hurt them. Their offense is sorely lacking for depth. They remain good bets to make the postseason, but 2023 will be a disappointment if it doesn't yield a spot in the World Series. So he's saying World Series are bust, which when you give Aaron money, money, Aaron Judge, that kind of money, you expect to be in the World Series. That's what you're selling out.
They're not going to the World Series.
They're not gonna. I would very much doubt that.
They're not gonna.
Am I gonna?
They're not gonna.
This has been a weird segment, Paul. I'm gonna give this team a D+. Because I think that they've significantly underperformed of what they should be. They should be right there with the Rays.
No, they shouldn't.
They should be.
No, they shouldn't.
With the amount of
no, they shouldn't.
Look. Let me finish. With their payroll, they should be significantly above the Orioles and the Rays. If you're going to spend that much money, you've got to spend it a lot more efficiently than they have.
Yeah, but a lot of that money is from contracts that they signed years ago.
That's fair. Like Aaron Hicks, sure.
So look, they get a C for me because they are exactly where I thought they were going to be. Because Aaron Judge got hurt. Mm-hmm. He's back now. He's healthy. And he's hit 7 home runs in 7 games.
Yeah.
But he got hurt. No way. Giancarlo Stanton.
No way.
Got hurt. No way. Carlos Rodon got hurt. No way. Luis Severino got hurt. No way. This team is old. And they have a bunch of guys who have a big injury history who all got hurt. No way. This team is exactly where I thought they were going to be. They're a good team. They're not a great team. They have a high payroll because they're still paying Giancarlo Stanton, who's now been there for 5 years and has amounted to a hill of beans for them. They gave DJ LeMahieu a 6-year deal when he was 32 years old for some stupid reason. Actually, I think he was 33 when they gave him a 6-year deal, and he's only gotten worse as a hitter as time has gone by. You're paying Anthony Rizzo, who's 32. He's having a really good year. He's having a really good year.
Oh, he's been excellent. 385 OBP. Yeah, he's been excellent.
And he's actually got his highest batting average in 7 years. Right? He's having a hell of a year. Judge has 13 homers. He's having a good year. But Nestor Cortez has kind of regressed, which anybody could have seen that coming at some point, right? He was 2 WAR better than Garrett Cole last year, right? Garrett Cole started this year out on fire. He's kind of come back to earth a little bit, but you're getting nothing out of Severino. You're getting nothing out of Rodon. Your Domingo Germán is that his name?
Yes.
Yeah. He's suspended 10 games for using an illegal substance, and he's a. Let's talk about the Yankees for a quick second here. You can't have long hair and a beard. Long hair and a beard, you don't get to play for the New York Yankees. But if you punch women and you use illegal substances, you have a spot on our team. Their moral compass and what their expectations of their players is ass backwards.
I don't disagree.
Like they have employed some literal pieces of human garbage, but don't have a beard and long hair. Johnny Damon, cut your hair and shave your beard. You look like a caveman. No, cut your hair, shave your beard, and punch your wife, and you can play for us, though.
I believe they finally got rid of this policy 2 years ago or 3. Didn't they?
No.
Or is that still intact?
They still have the policy.
Wow, okay.
That's why Rougned Odor had to shave his beard and look like an idiot the other.
Oh, you're right.
Garrett
Cole had to shave the beard when he came over from Houston.
Yeah,
you're right.
I know.
For like the fifth time today.
That was never in question.
Paul Valley's been right a lot today.
Yeah, Paul Valley's read a lot more than people think.
Specifically, Laura.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, Laura has the ability to, without even pointing it out, point out where I'm really falling short. Like we'll be having a conversation, and she'll say something, and I'll respond, and she just looks at me, and I look at her, and I'm like, yeah, that's not right. Yeah,
it's like trying not to tell someone they're fat, but telling them they should get in the gym. Like you're telling someone something without actually telling them that.
Yeah, she doesn't. My wife doesn't think I'm stupid. She doesn't think I'm.
I would hope not.
There are a lot of times where I'll be having a conversation with her and I'll say something without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
And she has an ability, because she's my wife, and I know that instinctively she already knows what I'm thinking. That I know that she doesn't even have to say anything. What I just said wasn't right. It was a knee-jerk reaction. She just has the ability, like I can already see it on her face. She doesn't have to say anything. So it's not my wife thinks I'm an idiot. She just brings out the best of me. We'll put it that way.
Real quick, though, in the Yankees rotation. back on track.
Yeah.
Most of the guys in the rotation, outside of Herman, your favorite player, have better FIPs than they do ERAs. So that tells me there could be some kind of resurgence for some of these guys, especially Clark Schmidt. I think Clark Schmidt's a good pitcher. I really do, but his ERA is 6 throughout 10 starts so far. I think Clark Schmidt will turn it around and become the clear-cut number 2 for this team. I think he is a good pitcher. But the Yankees, like you said, they're old. I agree with you. But I looked up their payroll. It's $280 million. $280 million, and you've only won 27 games so far. That, to me, is not acceptable. That's a D+. To me, that's not efficient use of money. I don't care what the roster construction looks like. I care they spent $280. And that's ridiculous. I mean, the Orioles have spent, what, 65, 70 million without looking up their payroll?
Yeah.
To me, that's if you're spending $280 million, you've got to be better than they have been.
Well, you do, but when you know where that money's going and you know who the players that they've given that money to, this is why them being in third place is exactly where I expected them to be.
I mean, paying Isaiah Kiner-Falefa $6 million is horrible for what he is. He's not worth $6 million to me.
Well, I mean,
Aaron Hicks is not worth $10.785 million.
No, he's not. He never was. And the fact that they ever the fact that he when he saw that contract, he was like, "Crap, they haven't figured out I suck." That's literally what went through that guy's head, and he jumped all over that contract because he sucks. You talk about that guy's not even worth league minimum. He is terrible. And
he's pretty awful.
Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, he's a good defender who can't hit.
He's a good defender,
and so that's somebody that. I mean, $6 million is like chump change.
He's a 52% worse hitter than the average major league hitter Isaiah Kiner-Falefa is, and
his OPS plus is 48.
It's 48, and
that is awful.
And for Aaron Hicks, it's 47. So they've been quite bad. But even guys like Gleyber Torres haven't necessarily lived up to what you would expect Gleyber Torres to be. Last year, Gleyber Torres was excellent. This year, he has a 109 OPS plus, 9% better, but his batting average is only 248. His on base is decent, 340. But that's fine. But you hope it'd be a little higher for a guy like Gleyber Torres that's making the kind of money Gleyber Torres makes.
Does he make that kind of money?
He makes good money. I think he makes about $10 million.
It's got to be through arbitration. He was a 4.
Yeah, it is an arbitration. He makes $10 million. Yeah.
He was a 4.5 win player. I think he was better than that last year. He's a good player.
But he'll get paid though. That's the thing about Gleyber Torres. He'll eventually get paid a lot of money by someone.
Yeah, I look at him.
Feels like someone to go to Texas.
Feels like Javi Baez.
No, I think he's quite a bit better.
Javi Baez, since he got benched in mid-April, is hitting 305, and his strikeout rate's the lowest of his career.
That's
the guy who you said is one of the worst hitters in baseball.
Well,
is hitting over is hitting 305 the last 6 weeks, and it has the lowest strikeout rate of his career.
Speaking of the Tigers, they're now 20 and they've won 20 games. They've reached that threshold. I'm not sure what their loss total is, but
20 and 22.
22.
They're 5-5 their last 10 games.
That's a lot better than I think a lot of people could expect at the time. They're now in second place in the struggling AL Central.
Yeah, the AL Central sucks right now.
It is really bad.
Cleveland is going to turn them on. They
will.
They always do.
Cleveland's really lacked much from their lineup, specifically Josh Bell, who they signed to a big deal.
And then I look at the White Sox, and I look at their lineup, and then I look at their rotation. Their rotation has been so bad.
Yeah.
And it's guys who are really good pitchers. Dylan Cease's ERA is approaching 5.
Yeah.
Michael Kopech was so good last night. We're going to talk about that in the payoff pitch.
To me, Dylan Cease has fallen into the trap of walking just too many guys.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Lance Lynn, his ERA is 6.66. He's better than that. Michael Kopech, his ERA is coming down, but it's still over. I think it's like 4.3 right now. And then Lucas Giolito is the best on their staff at 3.89. That rotation's better than that. I have to imagine that they're going to get better and start winning some ball games here. But Cleveland, White Sox, they're all underperforming. Minnesota, I look at their roster and they suck. I think Minnesota's roster is terrible. And yet they're somehow the best team in that division.
Minnesota has a lot of, and frankly, I think they always have had a lot of sleepers. And then they obviously have some pitching that's quite good. That's the thing I think about Minnesota. The pitching is a lot better than you expect it to be. I mean, Joe Ryan right now has a 2.2 ERA. Sonny Gray has a 1.64 ERA. Pablo Lopez has pitched okay as a 4 ERA. But all those guys, I mean, right now, Sonny Gray is a 266 ERA plus. He's 166% better.
He's got the lowest ERA in baseball. He's got the highest WAR in baseball amongst pitchers. He's been amazing.
But all three of those guys have been quite good.
We are off on a tangent here. Boston Red Sox, 25 and 20. We picked this team to finish in last place. I've got to give them an A. I've got to give them an A. They have significantly overperformed. The offense has been really, really good.
Yeah.
But I don't.
CBS gave them a B, which I think is low. I think that's again, they're one of those teams I do not find that talented. There's talent there for sure, but they're not on the level of a lot of teams in the American League. And the fact that they've been able to put together a season like they have so far, it's been pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, see, they don't have that kind of talent. But look, offensively, they've hit a lot of home runs.
Devers has been excellent.
Devers, I mean, that's why he got paid. Yeah, and his batting average and on base percentage is actually very low for his career.
For Devers, yeah.
Yeah, 264, 309 is what his batting.
But how many home runs does he have? Like 14?
13 homers, 44 RBIs. I think he's I think he's like second in baseball in RBIs right now. He's been producing despite the fact the slash line is maybe one of his career worst.
Yeah.
You look at their pitching, their starting rotation has been really bad. Their bullpen, they're basically out slugging teams. Is what they're doing. They're out slugging teams to win ball games. I mean, they have 2 guys in their regular bullpen that have pitched significantly out of the bullpen with ERAs below 4.25.
Mm-hmm.
Their starting rotation, they have 1 guy whose ERA is below 5.4. Their rotation has been really bad.
Yeah,
their pitching has just been terrible. And they were talking. Everybody kept talking about Kenley Jansen like he was like. Back.
Well, people forget that Kenley Jansen was not so great his last year in Los Angeles.
But no, people remember that, and they've been talking about how he's having a resurgence in Boston. 4.26 ERA is hardly a resurgence.
How many saves so far for Kenley?
He's got 9 saves. And
okay.
Look, he's got 9 saves in 14 games pitched. He's thrown 12 2/3 innings. So really, he gave up 3 runs in his 2 outings ago to blow a save. You take away those 3 runs, and the ERA looks significantly better. You know, but it's the ERA is like below 3. So Boston, I have to give them an A just because they're out slugging teams, but that's not going to continue.
I'm going to go B+. I think that they've overperformed, but I don't necessarily see it lasting. But based on what they did in the first quarter, which is what this is about, I'll go B+.
Toronto Blue Jays get an F for me.
Really, that low?
They get an F.
I'm gonna go C-.
They're in last place.
They are, but they're technically tied with the Red Sox, I believe, record-wise.
Yeah, but they have the best roster in the division.
Yeah,
they have the best roster in the division, and they do this year after year after year, where they are absolutely stacked, and it amounts to nothing. Last year, they should have been the best team in baseball each of the last 2 years. 2 years ago, they don't make the playoffs. Last year, they get in and they had like an 8-run lead in Game 2 of the wild card series and lost that game and lost a series 2-0 to the wild card Mariners.
Yeah.
Well,
for me, there's two guys there that have been expected to be really good, and that was Barrios and Manoah. And both those guys have been quite bad so far.
Barrios was terrible last year.
He was. I'll give you that. But Barrios over his career historically has been a very good pitcher.
They paid him a lot of money to be really good, and he hasn't been really good.
So from CBS Sports, they got a B, which I think is quite generous considering the start they've had so far. Again, based on the talent that they do have. You've got to weigh all of that in here.
Look, Alek Manoah with a 5.40 ERA.
Yeah, he's been bad.
His velocity is down. All of his baseball savant numbers are terrible.
Yeah.
Look, Chris Bassett's been really good. Kevin Gossman's been really good. Yusei Kikuchi, until last night, he was a hell of a lot better than he was last year.
Yeah.
He was back to his Mariners days.
He's been solid, which we're always like,
which kind of replaces Barrios. If Barrios had been performing like Kikuchi and Kikuchi had been performing like Barrios, then you'd be like, this is what we expected from this rotation.
Can we talk about Kevin Kiermaier slashing 325, 383, 513? Where did that come from?
Well, Kevin Kiermaier's a good player. He's always been a good player. The bat's been weak, but he was given the money to be the guy in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And now he's a guy in Toronto. I mean, when you look at an outfield where Dalton Varsho wasn't he like the top prospect in baseball at one point?
I don't believe Dalton Varsho was.
He was up there though.
Bo Bichette was, and Vlad Guerrero obviously.
Yeah. You're in the lineup that has Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette, Matt Chapman, Dalton Varsho, George Springer, Brandon Belt. That's the lineup that you're in right now. You don't have to be anybody but Kevin Kiermaier.
Yeah.
You don't like.
One other problem though, off topic, they're getting nothing out of their catchers. They've been not what you expected, especially considering the fact that Kirk is a guy that hit really well last year. And
Alejandro Kirk, I look at him the same way I looked at Dimitri Young. Dude's gonna eat his way out of the league. He's 24 years old. I mean, look at this guy. He's 24 years old. He is 5'8", and he weighs 245 pounds. I'm 5'8".
He's a big man.
I'm just about 5'8". I work out 5 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I weigh 176 pounds.
Yeah.
This guy is my height, and he outweighs me by 70 pounds. And not just that, muscle weighs more than fat. This dude is just, he's so out of shape. If anybody didn't see the regression, how do you swing with a belly that big?
Last year, Kirk hit 285, 372, 415. This year so far, 220, 352, 310. So the power numbers have dropped off. The on-base numbers have dropped. Basically, everything's worse for Kirk so far this year. And on the other side, Danny...
You had to see it coming. You had to see it coming.
Yeah, and Danny Jansen slashing 202, 272, 365. They're getting nothing out of their catchers right now. And that's, again, a piece that they really benefited from last year. Both guys were a lot better. So that's something that's going to have to turn around. But I guess then Kevin Kiermaier kind of fills that void offensively because you never would have expected him to do that. So maybe he can replace some of that production. I don't know.
Look, Bo Bichette he's an MVP candidate right now. He's got more hits than anybody in the American League. He's hitting 321. Matt Chapman is hitting 303 with a 385 on base percentage. Vladdy 311, 380. I mean, they've got Kiermaier, like you said, 325, 383. They've got some guys tearing the cover off the ball in this lineup.
Yeah, I would love
George Springer 228, 290.
Yeah.
That the money that they gave him, you've got to be better.
George Springer's one of those guys that with the injuries he's had over the past few years, I don't know if he's going to get back to what he was in Houston.
Well,
it's hard to say he will.
He's not getting any younger.
No.
It is crazy to me that I just looked at his age and I see 33 in that column.
Yeah.
Like
I remember his first couple games as an Astro. I remember that clear as day because he was such a big name coming up.
Yeah. Whit Merrifield is another guy who was one of the best second basemen, one of the best stolen base threats in the game. He's not having a bad year, but he's not what Whit Merrifield used to be. To
the Blue Jays' credit, and this is a guy we talked about in the offseason, Brandon Belt they signed for relatively cheap. Was it $9 million? Something along those lines?
Something like that.
So he's batting 255, 354, 408 with a 114 OPS plus so far. That's a guy, if you're the Orioles, you would love to have in the middle of the lineup. I think.
They could have signed him.
They could have
signed him, they didn't.
And that's the point I'm making. That is a guy, Brandon Belt would have been a very, very economical and efficient signing for the Orioles.
Yeah.
And he's performing, I think, exactly how you expect Brandon Belt to. He's getting on base at over a 350 clip. That's a valuable player for Toronto right now.
I don't disagree with you. Their pitching has got to get back to what. I mean, for my sake, no, it doesn't. You know, keep keep underperforming. That's cool with me. I hate the Blue Jays, but if they want, they're going to get their manager fired again. This team is too good to be in last place. And look, I get it. You're in the division where everybody has at least 25 wins, which is it's crazy. It's crazy. And the two best records in baseball you're looking up at right now. So I understand that, but you're the Toronto Blue Jays. You have more talent on your roster than just about everybody else. You need to start playing like it. Wait till after the Orioles leave. All right. Good segment. Longest sounding off segment maybe of all time. I feel like that's like the second time we've said that in a month. But it's a good segment. We don't have a guest for the second hour, and that was intentional because we got a lot to talk about. So very nicely done. It is now time for the payoff pitch around the league. It is the payoff pitch around the league. Ryan Mountcastle, Anthony Santander, and Adam Frazier all homered to back 7 innings of one-run ball from Kyle Gibson in the Orioles' 6-2 win over Toronto. Aaron Judge homered for the 7th time in 7 games, and Anthony Rizzo added a homer of his own as the Reds were no match for the Yankees' firepower following 6-2. Shane McClanahan threw 7 shutout innings, and Adrian Hauser threw 6 shutout innings, but the Rays broke through with an 8th-inning sac fly from Francisco Mejia to take down the Brewers 1-0. 4 Pirates players tallied 3 hit games, and Brian Reynolds drove in 4 as Pittsburgh crushed the D-backs 13-3. Nico Horner drove in 4 from the leadoff spot, and Marcus Stroman allowed just 3 hits and 6 innings of one-run ball in the Cubs' 10-1 throttling of the Phillies. Akil Baddoo homered and drove in 4 to lead the Tigers past the Nationals 8-6. Pete Alonso hit his Major League leading 17th home run, but Francisco Lindor stole the show with 3 hits, including a walk-off RBI single in his first appearance against his former team, as the Mets' 3-run 10th inning pushed them past the Guardians 10-9, and Zach cried in his sleep. Matt Olson homered, and Bryce Elder allowed 2 runs over 6 innings to lead the Braves past the Mariners 6-2. Adolis Garcia homered. Martin Perez spun 7 solid innings, and the Rangers beat the Rockies 7-2. Michael Kopech allowed 1 hit and struck out 10 in 8 brilliant shutout innings, outdueling a solid Zach Greinke as the White Sox took down the Royals 2-0. Kyle Tucker homered and drove in 3 as the Astros took care of business against the A's 5-1. Tony Gonsolin allowed 1 hit in 5 shutout innings, and Mookie Betts hit a 3-run 8th-inning homer to help the Dodgers bounce back against the Cardinals 5-0. Reed Detmer struck out 12 in 5 2/3 innings for the Angels, while Joe Ryan struck out 9 in 6 innings for the Twins. But it was Mickey Moniak coming a homer short of the cycle, and Hunter Renfroe collecting 3 hits, including the game winner, as the Angels took down the Twins 5-4. Rafael Devers homered in back-to-back innings, driving in 4 to back the resurgent James Paxton 6 innings of one-run ball in the Red Sox 6-1 victory over the Machado-less Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr. homered in the loss. And finally, Anthony DeSclafani, maybe future Oriole, allowed 2 runs while pitching into the 6th inning, and the Giants played a little small ball using 2 sac flies and a 3-run 6 to push them past the Marlins 4-3. Zach, what's on tap today?
First game of the day is at 2:10. Jordan Lyles, the former Oriole, takes on Lucas Giolito. Royals and White Sox at Guaranteed Rate Field in Chicago. Grayson, the Big Rod Rodriguez, takes on Alek Manoah. Orioles face off against the Blue Jays.
You're damn right.
3:07 at the Rogers Center. Tigers and Nationals, Alex Faedo versus Patrick Corbin. Maybe as Stanley Fan Charles wants, a future Oriole. 4:05 at Nationals Park in Washington. D-backs take on the Pirates. 4:05 at PNC Park. Brandon Pfaadt, I believe is how you say it. Am I correct in saying that?
That hoe over there?
Pfaadt. Against Mitch Keller, who is pitching fantastic to start the year, 2.38 ERA. Kyle Freeland goes for the Rockies. John Gray goes for the Rangers. 4:05 at Globe Life Field. Cubs and Phillies, Jameson Taillon against Aaron Nola, 4:05 at Citizens Bank Park. Braxton Garrett, the lefty, against Logan Webb, the righty. Marlins and Giants, 4:05 at Oracle Park. Athletics and Astros, a divisional game here. JP Sears versus Hunter Brown, 4:10 at Minute Maid Park in Houston. To be determined goes for the Yankees against Luke Weaver and the Cincinnati Reds at 4:10 at Great American Ballpark. Eric Lauer goes against Zach Eflin, 4:10 at the Trop. Brewers and Rays. Dodgers and Cardinals. Noah Syndergaard goes for the Dodgers. Miles Michaelis goes for the Cardinals, 7:15 at Busch Stadium. Logan Gilbert takes on Jesse Chavez, 7:15 at Truist Park. That's the Mariners and the Braves. Louis Varland goes for the Twins. Patrick Sandoval goes for the Angels, 10:07 at Angel Stadium. Angels look to keep it going. They're solidly
They're keeping
it going. The Red Sox and the Padres. Chris Sale goes for the Sox. Joe Musgrove goes for the Padres, 10:10 at Petco. And the Guardians and Mets were postponed today. They were supposed to be Tanner Bibby versus Max Scherzer today, but that did not happen. They were postponed.
Wait, who is it supposed to be?
Isn't it? It's Bibee, actually. It's Bibee. Taylor Bibee. Tanner Bybee.
You said,
I keep saying Tanner.
You said Tanner Biebers.
No, I said BB, but it's I think it's Bybee. I think it's Bybee.
Oh, I don't baby.
I don't know. Tanner Bybee against Max Scherzer postponed today.
Who's Justice Beaver? Crime-fighting beaver.
Let's go on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The payoff pitch around the league was brought to you by Pressbox Offers. Osei, have you seen all of Maryland's minor league ballparks? Pressbox is giving you the chance to check them all out this summer. Head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest now and sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams, 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25 and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. You must be 18 or older to enter the sweepstakes, and the sweepstakes end June 14th. So get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest right now to sign up. We got to catch a break. When we come back in, the payoff. When we come back in, Orioles banter. That's next on the Bat Around.
What air conditioning company can save 50% of your energy cost and qualify you for up to $7,500 in rebates? A.J. Michaels. We do more. We do it better for less. In Baltimore and Annapolis. AJMichaels.com.
Costas Inn has been serving up delicious steamed crabs for over 50 years. Lately, the crabs you want to eat when the weather warms up have gotten harder and harder to get. So get your crab eating game plan in place. Make sure to stick this number on your fridge: 410-477-1975. Call ahead and reserve the size crabs you want. You may be able to walk in, but you may also be disappointed at the size or maybe even get shut out altogether. So call ahead, have a plan, and then arrive on your crab eating vacation. Costas also has delicious crab soup and crab cakes. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard. For more than 50 years, they've been satisfying crab lovers in and around Baltimore.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Are you a diehard O's fan looking for the perfect way to show your team spirit? Look no further than Birdland Sports. Birdland Sports is a small business run by fans for fans. They offer a wide variety of unofficial O's merchandise, from the Birds Are Coming tees to player cartoon shirts and more. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. So head to birdlandsports.com and grab your gear today. Show your support for the Birds with Birdland Sports.
I'm Griffin Bass, and I have the extraordinary, mind-blowing, and life-affirming pleasure of being the new producer for the absolute funniest, smartest, and most handsome sports host in all of Baltimore. Wait a second, Glenn, I'm working for you, not Jeremy Kahn. If you're not listening to Glenn Clark Radio, here's what you're missing.
He's Coach Kevin Willard.
Glenn, thanks for having me.
Baltimore Ravens wide receiver, Rashad Bateman.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
He is outfielder Cedric Mullins.
Thank you guys for having me.
Mr. Marcus Williams, who's now with us.
Man, appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker.
Thanks for having me.
Adley Rutschman.
Absolutely, thanks for having me on.
John Angelos. Thanks a lot. Good to be with you.
Ryan Mountcastle.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Marlon Humphrey.
Thank you.
Talia Tungavailoa.
Thank you guys for having me.
He is J.K. Dobbins.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
The great Ray Lewis.
Always good to be on.
He is Mr. Cal Ripken Jr.
Good chatting with you.
Watch Glenn Clark Radio at youtube.com/PressBoxOnline and listen live at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or anytime on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to the Bat Around. Today's show brought to you by the Toyota Tacoma, which comes in a range of models and trim lines, and you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. Man, if you had heard the math going on in this in that break, you'd wonder how we're allowed to do anything. Anyway. Orioles banter.
10 par 3s, 8 par 4s.
10 par 3s, 8 par 4s. It's all par 4s and all par 3s, but it's a par 75, which
something
is physically impossible.
Something like that.
Anyway.
That was bad.
Orioles banter, part 1, and it's entitled, Is Hyde a Popular Scapegoat? And the reason I ask this is because I've been hard on Brandon Hyde. And let's be real about this for a second. As a man, I like Brandon Hyde. I think Brandon Hyde would be fun as hell to be in a bar with. I think I would love to hang out with the guy. I like that he seems like a badass when he's in the dugout. He's got his team's back. He's got fire to him. He's not afraid to speak his mind. When they wouldn't let him challenge that one call a couple of weeks ago, and then because they said that he got the challenge in too late, then when he came out for his next challenge and he was very demonstrative and animated about it, I thought that was awesome. I don't dislike Brandon Hyde as a person. I think that his decisions are a bit of a head-scratcher a lot of the times. And I've tried to kind of pump the brakes on my criticisms of him, but sometimes I can't help myself. And what I can't stand, I'm going to get to this. I'm going to get to that because first and foremost, I'm going to look at some of we'll talk about the good. Okay, he's done a far better job with his bullpen this year. Right, the players respond well to him and they love playing for him. The team's 29-16. You can't argue with the results. Right. And like I said, he's fiery. He's got a good finger on the pulse of the ball club. Mm-hmm. But then there's some of the moves that he does. That first game against Tampa Bay when Shane McClanahan shut them out and they lost 3-0. Cedric Mullins hits like .358 against Shane McClanahan. He had a leadoff homer against him last year. He rakes against Shane McClanahan, and that's the day that Brandon Hyde decides to give Mullins the day off. If you want to rest him, why not rest him the next day? I get that it's lefty-lefty. Mullins has been hitting left-handed pitchers a lot better this year, and he completely rakes against Shane McClanahan. Give him the day off the next day. Let him get that start. The Orioles didn't score a run in that game. I would have liked to see Mullins. Maybe it's a different ball game if Mullins is playing in that game. Thursday's game, to me, was another head-scratcher. He pinch hit for Ortiz, who at the time was 2 for 2 in the game. He pinch hits with Adam Frazier and his .225 batting average on balls in play, who promptly pops out. Then you come up to the ninth. The Orioles are down by a run. It's 6-5. Gunnar Henderson, I understand. You're not going to pinch hit for Gunnar Henderson because you know what he's capable of and you know that he's been swinging a better bat recently. He strikes out. Okay, Gunnar Henderson strikes out a lot. Then Adam Frazier comes up. And you put Cedric Mullins in the on-deck circle, pinch hitting for Austin Hayes, who's 3 for 4 in that game.
Yeah.
He gets hits in bunches, right? If Austin Hayes has 2 hits in a game, you know he's probably getting a third, right? And he's got the best batting average on your team. You tell him to ride some pine and have Cedric Mullins standing in the on-deck circle after Adam Frazier. Adam Frazier, and his .225 batting average on balls in play, proceeds to line a base hit down the right field line. But Hunter Renfroe gets to that ball so quickly, Jorge Mateo would have had a hard time beating that out.
Yeah.
He makes the poor decision to try to go to second base, and he gets thrown out. So now Cedric Mullins comes up, hits a ground rule double. If you bat Cedric Mullins, and people are saying, you don't know that Mullins would have hit that double if he pinch hit for Frazier instead of for Hayes. There's nobody on base. It's the same pitcher. He's going to pitch Mullins the same way. So he probably does hit that. Different circumstances, but there's nobody on base. There's one out. Chances are he's pitching Cedric Mullins the same way that he pitched him when he pinch hit for Hayes. Now if Mullins doubles, now you have Hayes who's got your highest batting average and has 3 hits in the game batting with one out. And you have Adley Rutschman behind him, and you have Mountcastle behind him, and you have Santander behind him. Now, look, it's not going to get to those guys if you do it this way, but you take your chances that way. Instead, Frazier gets thrown out at second base. Mullins lines a base hit for a ground rule double. Adley Rutschman gets intentionally walked, and Ryan Mountcastle strikes out on 3 pitches in a pretty awful at bat. Swung at 2 balls, and then took a look. The pitch was painted, but you got to swing. You got to swing and protect there. To me, he pinch hit for the 2 guys in a game that had multi-hit games for him. They were combined 5 for 6, and he pinch hit for both of them. To me, that was a head scratcher. The bullpen, I think he's been fine with. But he continues to field his worst lineups in day games that are series finales. bats James McCann and Adam Frazier in run-producing spots, Zach, it is a head-scratcher for me, some of the moves that he makes. And then you have, I'm sorry, you're an idiot if you think that Brandon Hyde doesn't make the lineups and Brandon Hyde doesn't control the pitching staff. There are people who will say to you, Brandon Hyde doesn't write the lineups and doesn't control the pitching staff. Mike Elias and Sig Mejdal write the lineups. Chris Holt controls the pitching staff. So then what the hell does Brandon Hyde do? If Brandon Hyde doesn't handle the pitching staff and he doesn't write the lineup, what's his job? You're an idiot if you actually believe that. He's the manager of the team. He gets input. Eve Rosenbaum, the assistant general manager, she said in an interview on the Verge podcast a couple of weeks ago, Brandon Hyde has final say on the lineup. He's the manager. Sig Mejdal, Mike Elias, other people in place, the hitting coaches, they have input, but ultimately final say comes down to Brandon Hyde. Brandon Hyde makes the decisions for this team. And yes, they've worked out to the point that they were 29-16 at the second best record in baseball. Could they be better? I know I've talked for a while here. Zach, your thoughts on this? Because I'm so critical of him, and I don't want to be. I don't want to be.
Well, if the question is Brandon Hyde a scapegoat for Paul Valley? Absolutely. I would answer that with absolutely. I think that Brandon Hyde does get a lot of blame in places maybe he shouldn't, because I think if you look at his record over player development and how the team has done the past 2 years, at least so far this year, he's been pretty excellent. I don't think you can complain with an overall view of the organization. But I guess when you start to break it down and you dissect it more game to game, I can agree with you in some of these places, especially the one where he pinch hit for Austin Hayes the other day. To me, that was the worst decision he made all year, and it ended up not looking so bad for him. But
because Mullins doubled.
Because Mullins doubled. But at the end of the day, you don't really do that to a guy like Austin Hayes, number one. Number two, let me rephrase that. Unless Austin Hayes is injured or something else is going on, or maybe it's even a matchup move that makes a lot of sense, you don't do that to a guy who's had 3 hits, who's as hot as ever. Austin Hayes has been flaming hot for the past 2 months. To me, this is not a move that really made any sort of sense. And it worked out for him, so people aren't necessarily going to criticize it. I saw you criticize it on Twitter heavily. But that, to me, is a questionable move. But I think when you look at it from a greater perspective, when you see the organization as a whole, what he's done for player development, and the record of the club the past 2 years, I think you have to say he's been pretty successful. But the question is, how much does the manager actually make a difference in the win-loss record? I've talked about that in previous years, where I'm not sure if he really does, because you saw, for example, the Toronto Blue Jays are a great example of why I don't necessarily believe that. Between when they fired their manager last year and the end of the year with John Schneider, am I correct in saying they moved on from Montoyo when? When was that? Was that last year or the year before? I'm messing up my dates here, but regardless,
they moved. It was like
Toronto.
It was like June because they were above 500, but only by like a few games.
Moral of the story: Toronto switched managers, and I didn't think there was a huge difference in the team, one way or another. And I think that can be said for a lot of different managers around baseball. There are some that I feel have a significant amount of difference. I feel like Buck Showalter has significantly had his influence on every team he's managed. Mm-hmm. But I don't necessarily know if Brandon Hyde has as much influence given the amount of different models and analytical things the Orioles use to make their team better. And that's a long-winded way of saying I don't necessarily know if Brandon Hyde is to actually gets credit for the record of the ball club the last 2 years.
Look at Brandon Hyde's managerial record before Adley Rutschman.
Oh, it's horrible. But before Adley Rutschman, the team was also very poorly constructed.
Yeah, they were constructed the exact same way when he got here last year, and they're now 94-69 since Adley Rutschman got here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a coincidence. Having a really, and they said it on the Apple TV broadcast last night, which by the way was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was absolutely fantastic. But they said it last night on the broadcast. Good baseball teams don't have bad catchers. They don't. He's the backbone. He's the drummer of the team. He's the backbone, and he's played every freaking game. Even the day even the day that he got a day off was a doubleheader, and he pinch hit in the first game.
Yeah,
he's been in every single lineup.
Right.
And I guess my overall point is that I think that there's a lot of managers that could be just as successful right now with with the talent that's on this ball club.
I agree.
And there's also a lot of managers that I think could have helped the Orioles get to the playoffs last year where Brandon Hyde fell short.
Yeah.
And so this year it's hard to argue with the results.
Yeah.
You know? Now, a grown man telling me to relax when I'm not being unrelaxed, when I'm not
What are you referencing?
People telling me on social media, relax. Like, for example, I said I have to imagine that Colton Cowser's debut is imminent because they've been playing Vavra a lot in right field, and Cowser's been raking, and he's not in Norfolk's line. Now, this was before I knew he had a little bit of a quad issue. And somebody told me Cowser's debu's been imminent for 2 months. Give it a rest. And this is the first time I've said it. And you're telling me to give it a rest, like there's a lot of keyboard cowboys out there, and so but it's like
keyboard cowboys.
Say this, like, you would, if you saw me on the street, you would not come at me with the same vitriol. You'd have a much more calm. It's funny, they're telling me to calm down when I'm just giving my opinion, and they're screaming from the rooftops.
That's the internet for you, though.
Yeah,
that's the internet.
No,
for you.
I get that, but we're in a social media society.
Yeah.
Right. So this is the stuff that and I'm more positive than I am negative, but I'm gonna call it like I see it. Now last night when I said Austin Hayes, I'd bench Austin Hayes because he swung at the first pitch after Kikuchi walked back-to-back hitters on 10 pitches. He had thrown 12 of 22 pitches for balls to that point, and Hayes swings at the first pitch with runners on first and second and 2 outs, and he pops out foul to the first baseman. Obviously, I wouldn't bench Austin Hayes after making that out. Things get taken a little too literally, but I'd be like, look, that's unacceptable. You can't. Hayes had a really bad game last night. He did not play well, except for the assist at second base. He just didn't play well offensively last night. But things get taken a little bit too literally. But look, I got to call him like I see him. And with Brandon Hyde, I kind of call it like I see it. I've acknowledged the fact that he's a player's manager. He goes to bat for his guys. They go to war for him in return. And he has managed the bullpen, I think, very well.
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's more behind the scenes of what you haven't seen Brandon Hyde do that's really making the difference with this club.
Yeah,
we don't know because we're not privy to that. We're not in the clubhouse, whatever. We don't get to see what Brandon Hyde's doing off the field. And I think whatever he's doing coaching wise to get these guys in the cage or their workout routines, whatever it is, it all obviously aligns with the whole player development system and their plans for each guy. But Brandon Hyde has had a positive effect there. I don't think that's you can't really argue that.
No, my whole thing with Brandon Hyde is in-game.
Right,
It's
right.
in-game. I think he overmatches up. I think he's over-analytical. Sometimes I think you just got to let guys play. And I think that Adam Frazier's days have got to be numbered. They've got to be numbered. Look, I don't...
Still has .6 WAR. He's been valuable.
Yeah, and Austin Hayes has a lower WAR. Despite looking like he's been a better player.
I don't think the defensive metrics have been very kind to Austin Hayes so far.
Yeah, they haven't been, and they weren't kind to him last year either. The offense, and look, offensively he's been good, but he's got 14 RBIs 2 months into the season.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not great.
Well, that's why, you can take the on-base percentage and the batting average and run wild with them, but Austin Hayes hasn't necessarily been as incredible as I think those two numbers make him out to be. That's why I haven't really gone... And at the beginning of the year, we talked about the fact that Austin Hayes always has these kind of strong starts, and then you never really know where it's going to go after that, because Austin Hayes is streaky as anybody.
Honestly, it's not even that he's streaky, man. I think that Austin Hayes is a really solid ball player.
Yeah, he is.
But he is. When he's healthy.
Yeah.
When he's not healthy... And it's true of anybody.
Yeah.
You're not going to be at your best if you're not healthy.
Yeah, I think undoubtedly he's a good ball player.
Yeah, and I think that if he stays healthy this year, these numbers are going to be there at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him. I'd like them to say, hey, Austin, you're not our leadoff hitter. You're not our sixth hitter. You're batting fourth every single game.
And he should be. Unquestionably to me.
You are batting fourth every single game. Maybe that puts him in because now he's got 11 games batting leadoff.
Yeah.
He's got 27 games batting sixth or something like that. He's batting fifth. He's batting first. He's batting fifth. He's batting seventh. Put him in the 4 hole and just say, this is your spot in the lineup. You are a 4 hitter. Tony, you're a 3 hitter. Ryan, you're our 5 hitter. And just go.
Yeah.
And just go.
I'm kicking a dead horse here, but you look at the 250, 276 slash line, I think it is, for Ryan Mountcastle right now, with his on-base percentage and his batting average. He might be the only guy that would get a pass for it. Would get a pass for that, where people would say, okay, this guy just doesn't walk. It's 44-8 right now is the strikeout to walk ratio. That's beyond terrible. It's beyond terrible. But he has hit 10 home runs, and he's driven in a lot of runs.
He's got a lot of extra base hits.
He just doesn't walk. So the 276 on base percentage is miserable, but I don't necessarily think it reflects him completely. But I do think that's not a 4-hitter. At the end of the day, that's like a 6 or 7 guy, maybe lower.
I think that what you need to do going forward is say, this is our lineup.
Yeah.
Against right-handed pitchers, it is Mullins, Rutschman, Santander, Hayes, Mountcastle. That's our top 5.
Yep.
All right? And against left-handed hitters, to your point, Mateo, Rutschman, Santander, Hayes, Mountcastle, and then Mullins, batting 6th.
It's questionable to me that Hayes keeps leading off against lefties when the splits clearly show he's not that good against lefties.
No.
He's really not.
He's not. I think that your 3, 4, 5 hitters should stay the same. Let everybody know this is where you're hitting every single day. And let them get comfortable. Let them get comfortable in those batting orders. Because a lot of times...
By the way... No, sorry, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. But
a lot of times, you'll see Austin Hayes, it's like, hey, you're leading off, he might press. Hey, you're batting 4th.
Yeah.
He might press. If he knows that's where he's hitting, he's just going to play his game because he knows that's where he's hitting. You're hitting 4th, go play your game. And now he's not swinging at everything because he knows that's his spot in the lineup.
To add more fuel to the fire that Jorge Mateo really should be leading off against lefties, he's batting 280, 333, 460 against lefties so far this year. Against righties, 233, 272, 438.
Mm-hmm.
Drastic difference. He should be leading off against lefties every time.
He should be leading off against lefties and batting 9th against righties.
Yep.
And Cedric Mullins
precisely
lead off against righties and bat 6th against lefties.
Yep.
And you're going to tell me that your lineup is not going to be productive with your 1 through 6 hitters being Mateo, Rutschman, Santander, Hayes, Mountcastle, Mullins, and then Henderson, Frazier batting 7, 8, and then, I don't know, Ortiz or Vavra or whoever the hell you need to put batting 9th.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to tell me that that's not going to be a productive lineup? That's the best lineup you're going to field all year against a left-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
That's the best lineup you're going to field all year. I want 3, 4, 5 to be the same until you have somebody else that can do it better. Because right now you don't. Yeah. And Ryan Mountcastle, I agree with Stan. I don't have a problem with the way Ryan Mountcastle's played this year. I think he's been a productive player. Look, he's been far more productive to this point this year than he was last year.
That's true.
And last year in June, he hit 290 with 10 home runs.
Yeah.
So if he's hitting 250 right now with 10 home runs, and then in June he does what he did last year, you're looking at a borderline all-star player, right? So for me, I don't have an issue with Ryan Mountcastle's start to the year. If you look back on it, aside from the 2020 truncated season, this is the best start he's ever had.
Definitely.
In his career. And if he's going to get a little bit better as the weather continues to warm up and stay warm, I think that they're fine. Okay. I think that they're fine. But Santander, Hayes, and Mountcastle are my 3, 4, 5 hitters every single day.
Okay.
You want to rotate the rest. But that's who's staying there. And if you bat James McCann 5th one more time, or 4th, and if you bat Adam Frazier 6th, Adam Frazier is not a 6-hitter. At his best, he was a 2-hitter. At his new normal, he's a bottom 3rd hitter. You want to bat him 7th? Okay. Bat him 8th? Okay. Bet him 9th? Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I thought James McCann had started to revert to his better part of his career, but unfortunately
he's in 200.
That has not been the case.
Yeah.
He's slashing 190, 217, 328. Last year he slashed 195, 257, 282. He's actually been worse.
Yeah.
And his OPS plus is 5% worse. He's 50 right now for the OPS plus.
He should not be hitting. No backup players on your team should be hitting in the middle of your order.
Yeah.
None. And Adam Frazier, at this point in his career, is a glorified utility player right now. He shouldn't be hitting higher than 7th.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be hitting higher than 7th. Ryan McKenna, look, as a 4th outfielder, he's been. You know what? We're gonna get into this. We're gonna get into this.
I was gonna say because AJ made a comment on Ryan McKenna that I wanted to touch on.
We are going to get into that in just a moment. Want to remind you all that Press Box is having a nice contest for you right now. You have a chance to see all of Maryland's minor league ballparks. PressBox is giving you the chance to check them all out this summer. So head over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest now to sign up to win 4 tickets to each of the local minor league baseball teams. 1 Easy Pass Maryland on-the-go transponder preloaded with $25 and a $50 gas card from Royal Farms to help you get around. You must be 18 or older to enter, and the sweepstakes end June 14th. So get over to PressBoxOnline.com/contest right now to sign up. When we come back in, we're going to do the part 2 of Orioles banter before we get into Take to Rake. All of that next on the Bat Around.
The All-America Senior Game powered by New Balance will be back at Johns Hopkins Homewood Field on July 29th. The most decorated girls and boys lacrosse players in the country have been invited to play in what is the premier lacrosse event of the year. Every college coach wants their players in this game, and if you dream of being in this game, you start by trying out for one of your regional underclass teams this summer. The best against the best. Get your tickets now at allamericalacrosse.com.
Baseball season is finally here, and what better way to celebrate than with some fresh gear from Birdland Sports. As a small business run by O's fans, Birdland Sports offers a great selection of unofficial merchandise, including unique designs like Birds Are Coming tees, player cartoon shirts, and championship prediction designs. And the best part, their prices are more affordable than the big guys. Get high-quality gear without breaking the bank. So whether you're heading to the ballpark or watching from home, show your love for the birds with Birdland Sports. Visit birdlandsports.com today to browse their collection and gear up for the season. Let's go O's!
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
That first sip. That first bite. Start your day off right with a delicious breakfast at Royal Farms. Choose from a fantastic selection of fresh Royal Farms breakfast sandwiches and top it off with a rich hot cup of the freshest coffee in the world. At Royal Farms, breakfast is available day and night. It's the freshest breakfast in the world. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holliday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the team's 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now. On the cover, Luke Jackson looks at the pipeline of talent still to come for the Orioles, diving in on last year's #1 pick Jackson Holliday and other top prospects like Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Kobe Mayo, and more. Also inside, Todd Karpovich profiles Orioles pitcher Kyle Gibson, and Bo Smolka breaks down what progress would mean for the Ravens' 2022 draft picks in their second pro season. Press Box is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores. You can always find the entire edition as well as the best daily coverage of the Orioles, Ravens, and Terps at PressBoxOnline.com. Yes, Zach.
By the way, to respond to AJ's latest comment, he said, before you guys jump down my throat about McKenna, I don't like McKenna by any stretch. I was actually not going to do that at all. I was going to just say you were right about him. He basically commented before that McKenna is having a much better year than really anybody expected us to, and that Brandon Hyde looks a lot smarter by playing Ryan McKenna as much as he has. And that's not false. Ryan McKenna has been well above a league average hitter according to OPS Plus, and he's slashing over 300 now. So it's undeniable. Ryan McKenna's been a lot better.
I said it last night.
He's been a lot better, but I don't necessarily know if he's an everyday quality player. I still don't think that. I don't think he's ever going to be that guy.
So, look, Brandon Hyde has, I'll give him credit, he's done a good job of picking the right places to put McKenna in recently.
Yeah.
You know, and if Ryan McKenna starts playing every day, you're going to see a lot of his shortcomings. But
yes.
But there's no doubt that since April 26th, he's been producing.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a productive player in his limited playing time. I said last night, if this is who Ryan McKenna is now, I'm on board.
Yeah, Ryan McKenna, he can't hit righties.
He's
at the end of the day.
He's a really good fourth outfielder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't like the way he tracks a fly ball.
No.
He gets there. I don't like the way he catches a fly ball. He catches it ear height just above his shoulder every time. I don't think you need to catch a ball with two hands. But I think you need to catch a ball at a higher point than right here where you can't even see it.
Catching a ball with two hands, as we've discussed before, is a fallacy. That's something that just doesn't happen. Nobody is catching a ball like that. That just
the only time you see a guy catch a ball with two hands
to shield the sun
is if it's either to shield the sun or if he's coming through the baseball to make a throw.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's got the hand on the side of the glove so that he can quickly transfer it to his hand.
Right.
It's not so that he can squeeze the glove close. Anybody who's coaching you to squeeze the glove close with your other hand shouldn't be coaching, because that's not what you do. You don't do that. In fact, I can't tell you how many times as a kid my other hand got in the way of me making a play, especially as an infielder.
Yeah.
You know, you see guys scoop a ball with two hands. They're scooping the ball with two hands. They're fielding it with the glove.
For the quick transfer.
For the quick transfer.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times growing up I would get my hand in the way of the baseball and hurt my hand or have it bounce off my hand because I got my hand in the way.
Yeah.
It's simply to transfer the ball. It's not to secure it.
Yeah.
It's not to secure it. That we're getting off a tangent. Ryan McKenna has been and I said it at points last year, as far as fourth outfielders go, you're kind of hard-pressed to find somebody who's a better fourth outfielder than Ryan McKenna.
Yeah.
I thought he was faster. I really thought he was faster. He's getting thrown out at third base on that fly ball. On that ball that got past the second baseman when they tried to pick him off. You can't get thrown out there. Not beating out that ground ball up the middle that Bo Bichette got to kind of slowly and then had to spin and throw. How do you not beat that out? And it wasn't even close.
So to go onto his Savant page, because that's my favorite thing to do when we talk about these players, is to look at his percentile rankings.
It's got to be 65th percentile for speed.
He's 81.
There's
which
no way.
Is a lot better than I would expect it to be. Probably because of what he does in the outfield. But speaking of what he does in the outfield, his outs above average is in the 26th percentile. That's very poor for a guy who is known for being a defense-first guy.
He's a defensive replacement all the time.
Right.
It's not good enough.
He gets good jumps. It's 70th percentile, but that's because of the speed. If you're not getting good jumps with the speed that you have, then you're not going to be a very good fourth outfielder. And that's what Ryan McKenna is at the end of the day. And like you said, if this is what he is, if he's batting .343 against lefties, which he is right now, that is an excellent fourth outfielder to have. I just don't know if it's going to last.
He's hitting over 300. It's not going to last. He's on a hot stretch.
Yeah.
And you know what? Orioles banter is part 2 is active roster to a man, and I thought we were going to have more time to do this. It's already after 12, so we're going to try and do this.
We can push it to next week.
No, we're going to do it now.
Okay.
We're going to do it now because I'm in the mood to do it, you know.
He's in the mood.
Let's the big rod. Let's talk about the infield. Gunnar Henderson.
Mm-hmm.
I took him in take to Rake because I saw he was making more loud outs, and they hadn't transferred to hits yet. And then he's had a solid week. Now look, he struck out 11 times this past week, but he hit over 300. You leave him alone, right? At this point, you're leaving Gunnar Henderson alone.
If they haven't sent down Gunnar yet, they're not going to now.
Yeah. You leave now. If he's still hitting below 200 at the end of June, you have to have a conversation. But I don't think that.
Maybe at that point.
I really don't think that's going to be the case. 2 weeks ago, he's hitting 176. He's up to 195 now. I wouldn't be surprised to see him up to 220 2 weeks from now.
That'd be a huge improvement. Frankly.
I think that's on his way. I think that you see him take off more in the second half and really take off next season. But I think right now the defense has gotten better. The bat is starting to play a little bit better.
Yeah.
He's still sometimes it looks like he's
got to cut the case.
Cut the case. I think that he's still guessing at the plate.
1,000%.
He's still guessing instead of having a really good feel, but he's showing signs of really turning a season around.
Yeah, no doubt.
I think. Jorge Mateo. The hope has been built up on Jorge Mateo because of 2 5-week hot stretches.
Yeah.
Last year in July, this year in April.
Yeah.
He's had 2 5-week stretches of really hot hitting, and otherwise he's been really subpar as a hitter. He's playing shortstop right now because he's a really good defender. If he doesn't start turning the bat around, I think you're going to start the bat around. Huh. If he doesn't start, you didn't even give me
not one of your best ones.
The show's the bat around.
Oh, I'm aware.
If it doesn't turn the bat around. Anyway, he said it. Oh my God, he said it. Yeah, have you ever seen Family Guy?
No, I'm not a Family Guy. I'm not a cartoons guy.
And it's not a cartoon.
It is
an
a cartoon.
Animated series.
It's a cartoon.
Cartoons are like Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny.
Family Guy is undoubtedly a cartoon.
It's an animated series. Okay, cartoons are for children, animated series are for adults, and that's what Family Guy is. All right, and Family Guy, when he's like, it's like when you're watching a movie and they say the title of the movie in the movie, and then it's like the bat around. Oh, he said it. Anyway, you suck. If Mateo doesn't turn the bat around, Joey Ortiz's glove is just as good. He just doesn't have...
Yeah.
And he's got good range. Nobody has the range of Jorge Mateo because he's a freak of nature with his speed. He's a freak of nature as an athlete. Joey Ortiz could get a lot more opportunities to play shortstop moving forward if Mateo doesn't get it turned around in the next few weeks, in my opinion. Ramon Arias, he's hurt again. He gets hurt twice a year. I don't think
minimum.
Does he even have an immediate future here?
That's
When he comes back, you think that Gunner's going to be hitting by then. You don't.
You would hope,
Westberg is here or about to be here.
I think if you know that meme of the Grim Reaper knocking on all the doors, the door that has the face on it right now is Ramon Arias, because in this case, Jordan Westberg is the Grim Reaper and Ramon Arias is that door. Because at the end of the day, it's an eventual replacement, and I don't know if it's necessarily imminent because I don't know what the timetable is for Ramon Arias at this point. Mike Elias said a couple weeks ago 2 to 3 weeks, I think, and it's already been longer than that, I think.
It hasn't even been 2 weeks.
I thought it's been
okay. It's 2 weeks
right.
on Monday because he got hurt in that game against the Rays where they lost 3-0. I was at that game. That was May 8th.
Okay, so then that timetable might be on par, but
it's always longer.
It usually is
always longer. So then you go to Adam Frazier. 225 batting, 225 BABIP.
Yeah.
Really weak you look at his baseball savant page, there's a lot of blue in a lot of key offensive categories.
Yeah.
The only place that he's red is in contact percentage and whiff rate. Yeah. Why is he still here?
Because the front office paid him $8 million.
Exactly. But if Ramon Arias has his face on the Grim Reaper's door, the door right next to it is
Adam Frazier.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I'm referencing there, right? I hope.
It sounds like a Family Guy scene, if I'm being
No. It's a lot of people use it on baseball Twitter or whatever it is. There's a bunch of players' faces, and they're all in a hallway with a bunch of doors. And
I've never seen this.
Really, and the Grim Reaper has already opened a bunch of doors, and there's like blood spilling out of them. But then the next few doors are closed, and it's the guys who are next going to get cut or sent down.
Is Miguel Cabrera on one of those? Because he's awful.
No,
he's in below 200 now.
I don't know.
Anyway, Joey Ortiz. Does he need more playing time to see if he can stick?
Yeah, I think so. And it's been good, and I've been happy to see him moving around to different infield spots, not just shortstop. He's played second, he's played third, he's been moving around. I love to see that.
I thought he looked really good at third last time.
He did look good.
And the throws from third base to the chest, really strong.
Frankly, he's a natural defender. I think Joey Ortiz, you're going to put him anywhere, he's going to have some level of success. He's just a good defender. I think he's a far better defender than Gunnar Henderson is, because when you see Gunnar move around, it's always that adapting to the position and trying to figure out how he's going to make the throw or how he's going to field something or another. Joey Ortiz is natural at it, and it's not that many guys that are, but he is.
Honestly, and I might get chastised for this, I think he's a far better defender than any infielder on the team. I think that
I think so too.
Jorge Mateo is a good defender.
Yeah.
But you'll see him make errors on routine plays that Ortiz isn't going to make.
Ortiz is just exceptional. And he's going to make errors. I mean,
everybody does.
He made like 18 in the minors or something like that. But it's going to happen, but he's much more reliable than I think any guy in this infield is.
Yeah, and Jorge Mateo, he's a really good defender. He gets the glove on the ball. He makes good throws most of the time.
Yeah.
But he also gets the balls that other guys can't get to.
Right.
And that's what makes him such an elite defender at shortstop. I think that I almost called him David Ortiz. I think that Joey Ortiz is an elite defender at every infield position.
Yeah.
Except first base. He doesn't play.
Well, you know where Mateo is exceptionally valuable on two different plays. One is a hard hit ball up the middle, right past second base. He can sometimes make that play because he's so quick. He gets such good jumps that he can actually dive or do whatever it is to make that play. That's one. And then two is the bloops over his shoulder. Something he has to run back for into left field. That's a play he can make a lot more than a lot of other guys can.
He's also really good going to the hole.
He is.
He's been really good going to the hole from what I've seen.
Yep.
And then Ryan Mountcastle, he is what he is, right? And are we reading anything into Anthony Santander getting more time at first base recently?
Mm-hmm.
Is that to make room potentially for Colton Cowser so that you can play Santander at first base, have Mountcastle DH, have Cowser in the outfield? You can keep all three guys in the lineup. Is that kind of what they're trying to do at this point?
I think so. They love versatility, so I think that's what they're really trying to do at the end of the day. Just make things more versatile.
But Ryan Mountcastle, we've seen who he is at this point.
Yeah,
he is who he is, and he's a productive player.
Yeah,
probably shouldn't be hitting fourth.
I don't think in 5 years you're going to look back and say, "Man, they really messed up." If Ryan Mountcastle walks from the Orioles,
I agree. I can't disagree.
Yeah,
I can't disagree. You move to the outfield. Austin Hayes leads the team in hitting, yet he has a lower WAR than Adam Frazier. That's because the defensive metrics haven't been kind, and he hasn't been as productive driving in runs, I think. 5 home runs and 14 RBIs through 2 months of the season. He plays every day. To me, you got to be a little bit more productive than that.
But the defense has been quite good.
The defense has been better than they allude to. It was poor in the beginning, but it was poor for everybody in the beginning of the year.
I didn't necessarily think that for Frazier.
I'm talking about Hayes.
Oh, sorry. I'm completely in the realm of Adam Frazier right now. I thought we were talking about Adam Frazier.
No, I said he has a lower WAR than Adam Frazier.
Okay, got it.
But Austin Hayes, he has
But yeah, his defense has been poor. I agree.
He's been healthy. He's hitting well, and again, it goes back to what we were saying: bat him fourth and leave him there.
Yeah,
bat him fourth and leave him there. That's what I would do. Cedric Mullins, to me, he's looked like an all-star.
Yeah,
he's not hitting 300. Few guys do these days. But his average has been routinely between 255 and 270 all year.
Yeah.
The on-base percentage has routinely been between 350 and 375 all year. He's stealing bases. He's playing great defense. He's getting big hits. He's one of the best hitters in baseball with runners in scoring position.
Mm-hmm.
He's hitting lefties again, and he oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought with him. I lost my train of thought. I think I already said it. What I was going to, but no, and he's top 10 in RBIs.
Mm-hmm.
He's top 10 in RBIs. To me, Cedric Mullins is an all-star.
As a leadoff hitter too, most of the time.
Yeah, he's a guy who I don't mind seeing you move him around a little bit. You want to bat him leadoff against righties and then bat him 6 against lefties. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm good with that too. Especially considering again, Jorge Mateo should be in the leadoff spot based on the splits that he has this year.
Yeah,
against lefties.
And I think that maybe he has a better approach at the plate.
Yeah.
And maybe it kind of gets him going a little bit because he's looking at his role a little bit differently as a hitter.
I'm sure he is.
If he's leading off the game, maybe he's not swinging at pitches that are up in his eyes anymore. Maybe he's like, you know what, let me take a couple of pitches and see if I can get on base because that's what his job is.
Yeah.
And he was really good at it the first month, and he's fallen off a cliff in May.
Right.
And then I look at Anthony Santander. He's been one of the hottest hitters in baseball in May. I think that he looks better right now than he has at any point in his Orioles career.
Yeah.
I don't. We've seen him get hot at times. His sustained success for this entire month, I don't know that we've seen such a long extension of sustainability for him.
No, he's been a lot better than I thought he would be to this point in the year.
Yeah, he's been excellent.
Yeah.
Then you look at catcher, Adley Rutschman. In my notes, I just put down next to his name, Golden God. He's the best catcher in baseball. He's the best catcher in baseball.
Golden God. The Big Rod and Golden God.
The Big Rod and the Golden God. Oh, my God. We need an event. We need an event at the stadium, the Big Rod and the Golden God.
By the way, AJ suggested a new segment for the show called Another Great Paul. And let me rephrase. Another Great Call by Paul.
Another great call by Paul. The Big Rod, Big Rod, and the Golden God.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can say about Adley Rutschman that's not positive. He has the best at bats in baseball. He's been on base more than anybody in baseball. His on base percentage is like 3rd in the American League. He is everything you hoped he would be and more. He is.
Yeah.
To me, there is not one player in baseball that is more valuable to their team.
Yeah.
All right, and you can say Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani he's the most valuable player in baseball because of what he can do on both sides, right? But look at the Orioles before Adley Rutschman and the Orioles since Adley Rutschman. He means more to this team than he just means more to this team. He means more than this team.
Speaking of the Orioles, the lineup is out. If you'd like me to read that,
we'll get to it.
Okay,
we'll get to it.
You're gonna love it.
Is that sarcasm?
Yeah.
God,
I think so.
I'm gonna kill somebody.
That's
on to
Wow.
the bench. Ryan McKenna killing it as a fourth outfielder the last 3+ weeks. The defense I think leaves much to be desired. I wish he'd learned to catch a ball above his face instead of next to his ear. But that's how he catches baseballs, and he's in the major leagues. Whatever. Ryan O'Hearn, he's been fine, but is he necessary?
No, not really.
I think his days are numbered. Terran Vavra, he continues to play outfield and second base only. Does he have any real tangible value? He's not playing enough for his professional at-bats to matter.
I'm not a huge fan of Terran Vavra's.
I like Terran Vavra.
He's okay.
I think he's John Jay. I think that he's a guy.
I think John Jay's better.
I think that was better.
Yeah, was better.
I think that he's a guy who, if you give him 500-600 at bats at the end of the year, you're going to see him hitting 280 with a 350 on base percentage. But I think that 90% of his hits are going to be singles.
That could be possible. I mean, that's like a Nick Madrigal, though.
Yeah, and Nick Madrigal doesn't get a ton of playing time anymore.
That's true.
You know, he struck out like 50 times his entire career. Like he just doesn't strike out. But look, Terran Vavra, I think he's a decent player. I just don't think there's a spot for him on this team in the future because unless he's your utility guy, but he doesn't play enough positions to be your utility guy. I like Terran Vavra, man. It's just they have so much talent in their infield coming through the system that's going to be here sooner rather than later that there's just not a spot for him, unfortunately. James McCann, look, he's never going to give you much more than what we've seen offensively. Defense has been good, but his arm, you saw that game against the Angels on Thursday, his arm sucks. Like, there were 2 different outs that he could have made that he didn't make because his arm was so poor.
Yeah, it's not a huge concern for me. I still think James McCann has been a huge upgrade over Robinson.
No, look, he's a great backup catcher.
Yes,
he's a great backup catcher. He's really good. He's a really good backstop. The arm's poor, but he does the best that he can with it. The bat is what it is, right? Yeah. He should not be hitting in the middle of the order. Brandon Hyde, he has his guys, and he loves his guys. And if it's a catcher, especially because Brandon Hyde used to be a catcher, I get it. You love your guys. Man, James McCann and Adam Frazier should not be anywhere near 4, 5, 6 in your order. They just shouldn't be there. Like when they play, 7, 8, 9. 7, 8, 9, man. Like that's where they belong. Let's stop trying to reinvent the wheel here, Brandon. Like, come on. And then you move to the rotation. Gibson, he's been up and down. Is he basically Jordan Lyles?
No, he's better.
But especially when Jordan Lyles right now is like 0-7 with a 7.70 ERA.
Jordan Lyles is an inning eater, and I think Gibson's a glorified inning eater. He's better than that. He's just not. I wouldn't say he's any better than really a 4.
Yeah,
he's a 4.
He's a decent pitcher who can keep you in ball games. He's got a veteran presence and
gives you surprising length. I will say that.
And I've heard that said about me a lot of times. And
Grayson the big rod, Roger.
The big rod. And on top of that, he meshes really well with this team.
Yeah,
he meshes really well with this team. There are times when I'm like, oh my God, here we go. That's how last night started. It was, oh my God, here we go, man.
But again, averaging just about 6 innings per start so far, which is really productive actually.
For the most part, he keeps you in ball games.
Yeah.
Now, last Sunday, he could have gone 6 innings of 2-run ball, and it wouldn't have mattered because Mitch Keller was on another level.
Yeah.
They were terrible last Sunday. I didn't even watch the game.
No, you're right.
13 strikeouts, man. I didn't even watch the game, and I looked at the box score. I'm like, I recorded the game, and I'm like, my buddy told me, he's like, why can't the Orioles win on Sundays or win in day games, or they can't win when Kyle Gibson pitches? And I was like, you just ruined the game for me. Like I'd gone the entire day without seeing the score, without knowing what happened. I was going to go home and watch the game after my round of golf.
I'm going to make sure to text you every score of every game now.
And
actually,
don't do that. just text me when they lose bad.
Okay, I will. Perfect.
Perfect. And honestly, I was glad he ruined it for me because when I looked at the box score and saw they lost 4-0 and they had 13 strikeouts, I would have been so pissed to come home and waste my time watching that game. So honestly, I wasn't even upset about it for very long. Grayson Rodriguez, he's on his last leg right now. And I don't mean last leg for life. I mean last leg for this part of the season.
Yes.
He's if he doesn't go out and pitch well tonight, and when I say well, he's got to give you at least 5 innings and 2 runs or less.
I would say going into tonight, right now, the odds are probably 60-40 that he goes down.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
If he doesn't pitch well. And you don't hold that Blue Jays offense down very often for 2 games in a row.
And those odds include the fact that he most likely is not going to dominate because he just hasn't so far.
Yeah.
And this is the Blue Jays.
He's had signs.
Yeah.
And look, it is Tampa Bay, and he dominated them.
He did. Yeah.
He's dominated some good lineups, save for the first inning this year. So if he doesn't go out and show them Grayson Rodriguez, he's going down.
Yeah.
Cole Irvin is still here because of that.
Yeah.
Cole Irvin got called up. He has not pitched yet because, look, they want him to be the guy who can fill in for Grayson if Grayson gets off to a rough start today.
Yeah.
Then Grayson's going down and Cole Irvin slides into his rotation
Could
spot.
very well happen.
The writing's on the wall. That's what's happening if he doesn't pitch well tonight, in my humblest of opinions. Dean Kramer, is he the guy who gave up 4+ runs in 5 of his first 6 starts, or the guy who gave up 3 or less in 4 of the last 6 starts? There is overlap in those starts.
Yeah.
Which guy is he?
I think he... I want to say he's somewhere in the middle. I
That's
think
such a cop-out, though.
It is. I think he's the guy giving up the runs. I think he's the guy giving up the runs.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Dean Kramer is just a very average Major League pitcher whose stuff is okay for a little while, and then he'll throw a few grooved fastballs middle, and get absolutely tagged. And I think that's what Dean Kramer is always going to be.
And the thing is, the last start was the only start in those 4 that he gave up even 3 runs, and he left having allowed 2 with 1 out in the 6th inning, and there's a runner on first base. And Brian Baker came in and immediately let that runner score.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times. It's been enough that I've noticed it where a starting pitcher will leave with 1 out and a runner on first base, and the bullpen lets that guy score.
Yeah.
This team, I don't have it in front of me, but I would not be surprised to see if they are one of the worst when it comes to inherited runners.
Austin Voth has done quite a bit of that.
Austin Voth, CNL Perez.
Perez, good example.
Bauman. Yeah. And Baker a lot. And Keegan Aiken until he got sent down. Like the back end is elite.
Yeah.
Cano and Bautista are nasty and nastier.
Yep.
Right? They've been elite. Now, the other guys, if it's the 6th inning and they're coming in with a runner on first base, with a runner on base, I'm inclined to believe that guy's scoring.
Yeah.
They just... And that's why I'm excited to get Michael Givens back.
Yep.
That's why I'm excited.
I think Michael Givens is going to make a significant difference.
Yeah. Kyle Bradish, 3 runs or less in 6 or 7 starts. Is he legitness?
Yes, I think he's just struggling. I really think Kyle Bradish is going to turn things around.
I don't think he's struggling at all.
I'm
I think
confident.
he's pitched really well his last 3 starts.
Yes.
Really well.
The numbers don't reflect it necessarily.
Sure they do.
I mean, what's the overall ERA right now?
3.90. He's 2-1 with a 3.
I think he's better than that. I think he's a lot better than that.
It's the second best ERA on the team.
Low bar, I guess, in a lot of ways. But I think Kyle Bradish is a lot better than that.
Like I said, 3 runs or less in 6 of 7 starts.
Yeah.
And he hasn't been at his best yet. I think he was... I saw from in the first inning, he had his A+ stuff.
But we will see we will see at some point domination by Kyle Bradish, where he goes 7 scoreless, 7 2/3 scoreless, whatever it is. We will see that eventually. I'm pretty confident.
I think it's coming sooner rather than later.
Yeah,
I think he's already on his way there. I think he's already on his way there.
The ERA is actually better than I thought it would be, but I still think he's better than that. I think he's a 3.10 guy.
You remember how bad he was against who was it that he gave up 6 or 7 runs? He was just really bad. It was.
He got tagged in the first inning. Like 4 or 5 of them were in the first inning.
Was it Boston? Who was he facing where he was...
I think it was Boston.
Where he got lit up.
No, you're right. It was Boston.
It was Boston. And then he faces... It was. And then he faces Detroit.
Yeah.
And he dominates shutout ball for 4 innings, and he gives up 3 runs in the 5th inning and can't get out of it.
Yep. And maybe that's what's skewing my memory a little bit, is that Boston game and that Tigers game. Yeah.
Those back-to-back starts, because since that Detroit game, he's been
good.
Pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Tyler Wells, lowest whip in baseball. He's got an elite spin rate on his fastball, which makes up for the 19th percentile fastball velocity.
Changeup is dirty, though.
Yeah,
absolutely dirty.
The peripherals suggest on his baseball savant page that he's due for regression, but his ERA is 2.93, lowest whip in baseball.
Yeah.
He's been every bit the ace of this staff to this point. You've got to, and it's so funny how 2 weeks ago we were talking about how last week on the show with Ryan Blake, we were talking about how he's due for regression, and maybe this team is that much better if he moves into the bullpen and takes Austin Voth's role. And I do think that they're that much better, but he's been so good in the rotation that you can't justify taking him out of it.
Not at all. There's no question.
And if Grayson Rodriguez goes out this afternoon and pitches really well, the Orioles somehow manage to win this ball game, and then you have Tyler Wells going tomorrow against Kevin Gausman. That's
Kevin Gausman. I think he's 3.27 so far on the ERA.
The Orioles hit him though.
They do. They do. He was
Um,
frustrated last time he pitched against them. I remember that it was a pretty good game for the Orioles.
To me, Tyler Wells is a guy who's cemented his role in this rotation for right now. Bullpen, we already said, Cano nasty, Bautista back to nasty, Baker good, but at times he can be nausea-inducing. Coulomb, however you pronounce his last name.
He's cooled off a bit, but he's still been good.
Has cooled off.
That's why I did that.
He's doing the job he's brought in.
Yeah, he's fine.
He didn't reach first base in time on the play on Thursday. Mm-hmm. Even if he hadn't fallen off the mound, there's a chance he doesn't get there anyway. Otani's got sneaky speed.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't look fast when he runs because his legs are so big and so long that he's covering so much speed.
He's probably 60th, 70th percentile.
But he's covering so much ground with each stride that it doesn't. Ed Reed, when he ran, the way his legs looked when he ran, he didn't look fast. But the next thing you know, he's running a 4.40.
Yes, 59th percentile for sprint speed on Otani.
So I look at, Perez, he was terrible, but he's been getting better lately. Mike Baumann, he started great. He's been bad recently. He's been giving up a lot of home runs, allowing a lot of inherited runners to score. And I think he's the prime guy to be sent down when they activate Givens, maybe as early as today.
I can see that.
And then Austin Voth, he was bad, then he was good, now he's bad again. And Cole Irvin hasn't pitched since coming back, but he was awful enough to be demoted. I don't think he's in the bullpen much longer. If Grayson Rodriguez pitches really, really well today, I think you see Cole Irvin sent back down to the minors soon.
Probably.
All right. Orioles lineup.
Oh, I got to pull that back up real quick. I have Mullins in center field leading off. I have Adley Rutschman catching, batting second. Santander's in right field batting third. Mountcastle at first, batting fourth. Frazier is batting fifth at second base. Gunnar Henderson is playing third base, batting sixth. Ryan O'Hearn is DHing, batting seventh. Taryn Vavra is playing left field, batting eighth. And Jorge Mateo is batting ninth at shortstop.
Okay, so I don't mind O'Hearn and Vavra in the lineup because O'Hearn he's been productive when he's played.
Surprisingly, yeah.
And look, his last start, he homered and then was pinch hit for in his next at-bat.
Yeah.
Vavra has been taking really good at-bats, and that batting average is coming up. It's creeping up. I don't mind them. And Mateo batting ninth, I like Mateo batting ninth.
Yeah.
Adam Frazier batting fifth in any lineup in the history of baseball is the most mind-numbing, mind-boggling thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. Why are we trying to reinvent the wheel?
I'd throw O'Hearn at 5. Why not?
You can justify O'Hearn batting fifth.
Yeah.
Frazier, he has 5 home runs this year. That's cool. Come on. I bet he finishes the year with 7. I bet he finishes the year with 7 home runs.
I think he'll get to 10.
No, I bet he finishes the year with 7 home runs.
Okay.
Watch him hit 3 today in the 5-hole just to prove me wrong.
You can take him for take the rake if you want.
Hell no.
Okay.
You could take him. Whoever won.
Oh, I'm good.
You didn't even get a pick last week.
I know. Do I get Ryan's pick or how does this work? Have we made a executive decision on that? Or does it?
Well, let's go there right now.
Okay.
So Ryan took Anthony Santander. He went 7 for 24, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 5 Ks, a stolen base. He slashed 292, 393, 667, 1060. I took Gunnar Henderson. It wasn't a bad pick. 7 for 23, a home run, 2 doubles, a triple, an RBI, 1 walk, 11 Ks. 304, 333, 609, 942.
Okay.
Bob Haney took Austin Hayes. 8 for 26, a home run, an RBI, a walk, 5 Ks, 308, 333, 462, 795. Literally, this might be the best that 3 people have done in Take the Rake of all time.
That's because I wasn't there.
Look, Santander won.
Yes.
Because he had the most RBIs, the most home runs, the most walks. He threw
OPS.
He threw the highest OPS, the highest on base percentage. He threw in a stolen base. Gunnar Henderson was a good pick. I was feeling really good about it, but Ryan won.
So where does Ryan picks go? That's the question.
Ryan picked in your place.
Yes.
So even though I don't think you should get to pick first because you missed a week, I'm going to let you pick first anyway. The standings as they currently stand, I have 2 wins. You have 2 wins. Guests have 2 wins.
Okay.
Ryan, I consider part of this show, so Ryan has 1 win.
Okay.
This year. So you do get to pick first. There's a 3-way tie for first place.
Wow. I'm going to go with Austin Hayes. I like Austin Hayes. Even though
Hayes.
He is not playing today, so I get an immediate disadvantage with that, but
he'll come in. I'm going to pick next. I'm the only one that gets to pick now, so I'm picking last and second. Is it Cedric?
You really want to take Adam Frazier. I can see it in your face.
Or is it Adley? Is it Cedric or is it Adley? The last time I took Adley, he went 1 for 19.
The last time I took Adley, he went like 1 for 20. So
yeah.
Hasn't been productive for either of us.
I'm taking Adley.
Okay.
I really want to take Cedric, but he's been really hot recently. I think he's due for a cool down.
Mm-hmm.
Adley's been kind of teetering. I think he's going to have a nice week.
Okay.
So Zach takes Austin Hayes. I take Adley. And we will see how things play out next week on the bet around. The bet around last week, I can't remember the numbers for some reason. I didn't write them down, but I remember the bets I told you to take. Took the under on Yankees-Rays runs. That was a big miss. I mean, it was. I think it wasn't. I think it was Shane McClanahan against Nestor Cortez. It was. It was McClanahan versus Cortez, and the final score was 9-8 Yankees.
Wow.
Yeah. That was a miss. So take the over on the Mets and Nationals. It was Zach Lucchese versus Devin Williams. Mm-hmm. Not Devin Williams. Something Williams for the Nationals. Those are 2 pitchers who were long past, and I was like, there was a rain delay. The game had to be made up the next day, had to be completed the next day. The final score was 3-2.
Okay.
Because both of those guys only pitched into the 3rd inning before things got postponed. Nats won 3-2. That was a miss. I said take Santander to homer. I think he doubled twice in that game, but that was a miss. I said take Gunnar to homer, and that was a hit. Gunnar hit a home run. So we were 1 for 4 last week, which is honestly better than we've been this year. We've been awful. I tried to do a parlay, but they didn't have enough information yesterday to get last night when I was trying to do it to pick a parlay. So I'm going to go in here real quick, and I know that it's already 12:30, and Zach hates when we go this late, and I'm so sorry for that. But whatever, it's my show. Let me see if I can just build something real quick here. So I'm going to take it's Grayson Rodriguez versus Alek Manoah. What the hell? Why did you do that? I'm going to take the over on 9 runs.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that the over on 9 runs. I'm going to add to that to hit a home run, Vladdy Jr. and George Springer.
Really?
Yeah. And to record a hit, I'm going to take
Kevin Kiermaier.
No,
he's on base like 383
I'm
going
to take Adley Rutschman at minus 290. So my bet slip that we're doing, the parlay, if you bet $10, you'll win. This is a plus 32.62. So you bet $10, you win $326.20. So take the over on 9 runs, Vladdy Guerrero to hit a home run, George Springer to hit a home run, and Adley Rutschman to get a base hit at plus 3262. That's my bet. First parlay we've done in the history of the bet around. Let's do it. Final thoughts. We buried the lead a little bit. Jackson Holiday is a freak of freaking nature.
AJ said he takes Jackson Holiday for take the rake.
Yeah, he is, and I didn't even see that comment. It's just, how could we not talk about what Jackson Holiday's doing? He got the night off last night, so I sent out a tweet last night. I actually think I want to take this bet. I'm going to leave it here. I sent out a tweet last night that basically said, with Jackson Holiday getting the day off, let's take a second to talk about how much of a freak he's been this year. Where is it? Son of a man, so many people commenting on my Adam Frazier thing, and not enough people about, oh my God, where is it? Zach, vamp while I try to find this.
I mean, I don't know what tweet you're referencing.
No, you talk about something else, man. It doesn't matter.
By the way, I just love AJ's comments. He's my favorite commenter in this show because they're just hilarious. He said, the Rich Dubroff Take the Rake segment should be played before every single segment. Before every time you guys do Take the Rake, he said it was an instant classic.
Yeah.
He's got a point. It was funny. It was entertaining. But
yeah,
I need to start doing better, for being honest. So let's hope that Austin Hayes actually gets in this game today.
You're tied for first. And
you know what?
tied for last.
I think he'll pinch hit for Taron Vavra at some point.
Yeah, I think he's going to pinch hit.
Yeah.
I think at some point.
He'll pinch hit for Taron Vavra, and hopefully he actually can... Vavra, sorry. And he can do something.
Do you call him Mario?
No. God, no.
But you call it Vavra.
I don't know. It's.
Do you say avocado?
Tomato. No.
It's not tomato. It's Vavra.
Yeah, well...
It's how Brett Favre's name should be pronounced, but with an F or with a V. Brett Favre.
Favre.
Anyway,
where are we going?
Jackson Holliday. I said with Jackson Holliday getting the night off, let's reflect on how crazy he's been at high A. For the Aberdeen Ironbirds, he's second in runs with 13 games fewer than the player in first place. He's third in hits, 12 games fewer than the guy in second place, 11 games fewer than the guy in first place. He's first in triples. Second most home runs on the team. He's 13 and 12 games fewer played than the two guys who have the most on the team. He's second in RBIs, 12 games fewer than the guy in first. Tied for fourth in walks, 11, 12, and 13 games behind the guys who are in third, second, and first place. He's a freak. He got promoted to high A from low A after 51 at-bats because he was just so much better than everybody else.
Yeah.
Then he goes to high A, where he's playing with guys who got drafted out of college last year. And he's arguably the best player in the league.
Yep.
He's the best player on their team.
Yep.
He's hitting .388. He had a stretch this past week where he was he was 8 for 8 with 2 doubles, 3 triples, and a home run, and 11 RBIs in back-to-back games. He is an absolute freak. He got promoted to high A, and he's been better at high A than he was at low A, where he got promoted so quickly because it wasn't enough competition. My final thought is that Jackson Holliday is going to Bowie before the All-Star break, 1. And 2, he's going to be in competition to be the Orioles starting shortstop as early as next spring training.
As he should be, yeah.
He is proving to be, and for that matter, he's going to make the Orioles the first team in baseball history to have 3 straight number 1 overall prospects. He is going to be the number 1 overall prospect in the game, probably at their midseason rankings. He is that good. And it's just the tip of the iceberg. Jackson, and he's a good defender. He's a really good defender. Jackson Holliday is going to be in competition to be the Orioles starting shortstop on opening day next year in spring training. That's how, in his first big league spring training, he slashed .424, .565, .500. In his first spring training as a 19-year-old who was playing high school baseball 8 months prior. He is, if you have a 1-1 pick, Adley Rutschman's everything you want in a 1-1 pick. Jackson Holliday is everything you want in a 1-1 pick.
Yeah.
He has been absolutely incredible. And if you're not excited about this team now, I don't know what else it's going to take. Second best record in baseball. They're beating good teams, and they have a farm system that is elite. Your thoughts, Zach?
It's hard to add on to that. You said it well. Jackson Holliday.
Is that the same thing as Paul? You're right.
That is Paul. You're right. Yeah, it's
big show for me.
I can't argue that. He's going to be the number 1 prospect sooner rather than later. He's doing everything you'd want to see a number 1 pick do. He will struggle at some point. People are probably going to freak out, but they shouldn't, because this kid is quite good at everything he does, and he deserves to be the number 1 pick. And he's showing you why. So Drew Jones has not had the amount of success that Jackson Holliday has had thus far. So you're seeing a lot of that talent really, really come out of Jackson Holliday right now. It's great to see.
Yeah, it's been a phenomenal season for him, a phenomenal season for the Orioles. Phenomenal show today, Zach. Well done. Thank you to Stan for his work on the show today. Thank you to all of our listeners, all of our sponsors. Without either of you, we do not have a show. A lot of fun today. Sorry it took so long, but we'll see you next week.